Sleepy town settled for the night, where every lawn is tailored just right. And it's about time that the back porch light comes on. At that house down the street, at that house on Magnolia Street.
Hey Witch Hey, I'm Justina.
I'm Christina.
Welcome to Magnolia Street, your one and only musically inspired practical magic fandom podcast.
Every week we deep dive on different aspects of the movie and the books, as well as treat your ears to our very own practical magic inspired original music. And this week we are honoring the mighty Hektate. We're talking about Hekate. Finally, right? Yeah. This one feels like a long time coming. And Justina knows my hesitation when it came to this episode, but I think it came at the perfect time. I just really wanted to make sure that we did this episode justice because she's such an important figure and venerated still to this day by so many people. So I wanted to make sure that we had kind of a guide in this bag. You know, if we ever wanted to attempt to connect with her or talk with her, we weren't going in blind. But I reached out to a few people before and never heard anything back. However, the contact we made with our guest today, we're going to have a little later in this episode, I think you can definitely call it divine timing, because I've heard if you want to talk with Hekate or if you want to work with her, you better be sure you want to work with her, because she can giveth, but she can taketh away. You know, like she can fuck up your life if you're not ready for it. You know what I mean? So,
right. Yeah. So today we're going to take you all through the mighty Hektate's place in the book and film as we talk about her origins, the lineage, her name and place in paganism today. But we will be sitting down with longtime Hekate devotee and published Llewellyn author Vincent Higginbotham to discuss his experience and work with her. So stick around for that. But first, we're going to get right into the books. So where does Hekate, Hektate, where does she show up in practical magic? The first time we ever saw or ever heard of her, right, was in the movie, because I don't even think does she show up in practical magic?
No, I think so.
Not even, right. So yes, nothing in Practical Magic, the book. And we're going to get into the film in a bit, because there is actually a moment in magic lessons that has an interesting tie back to the film regarding Hekate. Let's get into magic lessons. So starting on, this is Maria's backstory, her origin story. This starts on page 250. And so it says, she saw Faith standing among the blossoms, her dyed hair blue-black in the harsh light, her lips moving as she recited an incantation to Hekate, the ancient goddess of magic, who held power over heaven and earth and sea. On page 252, Maria turned to the book, reading the grimoire for hours, trying every remedy that might help the old man regain his vitality. Vervain, feverfew, nightshade, horehound syrup, none of it had worked. As Abraham's condition worsened, Maria was willing to delve into the darker magic that practitioners of the nameless art were taught to avoid, though she could find no death spells in the grimoire. That is not our business, Hannah had told her. When you go inside the darkness goes inside you. She found the spell she was searching for at the very end of the book, on a page she had never noticed before. It was invisible without bodily fluid, but Maria could feel it there on the page, writhing, ready to be called up. She licked her thumb, then ran her damn finger across the page. The letters appeared in small, perfect script. Do not use unless you must. When Samuel entered his father's chamber that evening, the scene he witnessed stunned him. They never discussed where Maria had come from, or more importantly, what she was. Now it was clear there was no mistaking witchery. Black candles were lit around the old man's bed, so many that the smoke scorched the ceiling and billowed into the corners of the room. A line of salt had been poured along the walls so that no evil could enter, and herbs were strewn over the bed. Maria sat before the old man, naked, slick with sweat, as she chanted an ancient spell so dangerous and powerful the words turned to ash as she spoke them, and her mouth burned as she called to Hekate, the goddess of magic and sorcery and light. Abracadabra. I will create as I speak. I will force into being that which is impossible and illogical, all that is against the rules of men, a shield to prevent death, no matter how dark the results might be. Enough! Samuel Diaz seized Maria from the bed and covered her with a blanket. He stomped on the candles as if they were bugs, extinguishing the flame, then opened the window and waved the smoke out. At last Samuel turned back to her. He wasn't often angry, but when he was, he burned. Is my father an experiment for your art? It's a cure. When I cured you, your father was happy that I did. Why can't you be? That is not the same. The only cure for old age is death. There are things that you should not change. We'll let him go, as he should. Samuel was right, and she knew it. What was forcibly brought back from death never came back as it was. One lived or died as fate saw fit. It was possible to shift one's destiny depending on choices that had been made, but some things were meant to be. They had been written and could not be unwritten. It's like what's her name? Natasha Bedingfield.
What was that?
Past is still unwritten. That song, right? Remember that song? Abraham Diaz's time had come. On both hands, his lifelines had reached the ends of his palms. Maria stopped fighting a war she couldn't win. So I wanted to chat about this passage, okay? Because doesn't that sound a bit familiar? So in my Kindle reader, upon revisiting this passage, I had added an annotation here that said, is this the resurrection spell from the movie? So basically what Samuel tells Maria is the same thing that the aunts tell Sally when she wants to bring Michael back from the dead, and what Sally tells Jillian when she wants to bring Jimmy back from the dead, right? In the movie. Okay. Except Jillian's guilt trip actually works on Sally, and they actually do attempt this.
Okay, and so this is a little different though. This is hardcore. Get naked, use all the candles in a hot ass sweaty room to do this resurrection spell. Like, that is not what we saw in the film.
No.
Not what we saw on the resurrection page.
No.
It's really interesting that it is much darker.
Right. Well, we don't know, because what we saw in the film was actually trash witchery, right? Who knows? If the aunts had done that spell, maybe they would have done it the way Maria did.
Naked.
Yeah, exactly. The nudity is entirely optional, so who knows?
Oh, yeah, okay.
Jet and Franny are doing this actually skyclad. Maybe that is the way that this resurrection spell was intended. But as we saw in the movie, Jillian and Sally are not on the up and up on, the traditional ways to do these things. Sally wasn't even accepting her magic until Jillian kind of guilted her into doing this. Also, when we just looked at that whole resurrection page, they weren't even following the recipe exactly.
Do you think Maria had 14 candles?
Probably, if she was doing this correctly. Maria was probably legit, and she was doing this the real way. Hannah, Maria, is the one that kind of put this book together, so if anybody knows the origins of these spells and how they are to be conducted the right, quote, the right way, I would imagine that the aunts would probably be following the same way that their ancestors were, but I don't think Jillian and Sally they're more of that modern witch, right? That modern 90s witch. I don't think they're doing
Penny-Pinching.
Exactly. They're not doing anything
with the
right way.
Whipped cream. Yep.
Exactly. So interesting. Also, another thing I find interesting, or maybe this is perpetuating that myth that, Hekate, she is known as this goddess of magic, sorcery, and light, and this thing that's very dark and intimidating. And maybe that's why we all are, kind of scared to approach her, maybe. And Alice kind of gives her that appeal or that kind of vibe in her book. Right here in this passage, she's saying that she's like this dark goddess that you don't really want to mess with. They actually do attempt this, and when they attempt it, they call to not Hekate, not Hekate, but Hektate. They say, mighty Hektate, make it right. So Hektate, some may speculate that this was a mistake and that the girls didn't know how to pronounce it, but our running theory in the past anyway is that they're probably using a variation of Hekate as to maybe not use the name of an actual deity for the sake of a fictional movie, out of respect for those who honor her in their practice. But then also, let's not forget the additional discovery that we made on our Frog and Toad magic episode from Season 1, episode number 46. So let's pop that in here. So we're going to talk about an Egyptian goddess of fertility. How do you say this? Hekate?
Yeah, that sounds right.
Or Hektate. So identified with Hathor, represented in the form of a frog. To the Egyptians, the frog was an ancient symbol of fertility related to the annual flooding of the Nile. Hekate was originally the female counterpart of Khnum, or Khnum, or the wife of Khnum, by who she became the mother of Her-Er. It has been proposed that her name is the origin of the name Hekate.
Wow.
Hekate, mighty Hektate, make it right. That's why That's why they used Hektate, which was the goddess for the frog spell. The resurrection spell. And I was wondering, remember when in, what was it, the Book of Magic, where Jillian brought a toad or a frog to bed to help her with fertility. And I'm like, I wasn't finding anything about that. But like, look, the Egyptians
There it is.
considered the frog the ancient animal associated with fertility. So it all comes full circle. Not only that thing in the Book of Magic that I was like, what's that mean? But then also like why they used Hekate in that scene.
We're so good at our job.
Oh my God. Somebody please pat us on the back. Somebody please tell us that we're amazing.
Yeah. I know. I feel like we're the only people who are like, this is incredible. Look at what we found. Because we do a lot of this. We splice a lot of this separately.
Yeah.
And like, I did not even read that you wrote the thing about fertility. And I was like, hey, there's a goddess who's a frog.
Yeah. And I didn't even see that you wrote this about this goddess Hekate. Mighty Hektate. You're right.
This was a aha moment of, oh my God. Okay, it's all making sense. It's all making sense. I'm glad we did the frog episode so early.
Right.
We've learned a lot from that one in particular.
We did. I remember we were talking about like the skin of the dying man. We're like, what does that mean? Like, what is that? There was a lot of good stuff in that episode. Guys, go listen to that one.
Yeah.
It's still probably one of my favorite episodes because there was so many things that we kind of like, so many little pieces that we're puzzling together.
Which I think now we might have to revisit when we get Stephen's
Stephen Alish. If we get to talk to him, that would be really cool if we got to talk to him. And then lastly, from Book of Magic, the scene where Samuel Diaz is drowning in the lake and Maria tries to save him. On page 378, it says, Faith was spitting water alive, and so Maria didn't wait another instant. She quickly filled her boots with stones, then shoved them back on. She repeated the incantation for protection, calling to Hekate, offering her devotion if only she could be granted this one thing. One time, underwater. That was all she wanted. So, in this passage, Maria puts the stones in her boots to weigh herself down so she could get underwater to save Samuel Diaz from drowning in the lake. At this point, he already appears dead, but she grasps onto him and removes the stones from her boots to shoot her back up to the surface. He's pretty much dead at this point, as she doesn't hear his heartbeat. So it goes on to say, quote, her own mother had confided that there was an ancient bargain a person could make with the darkest powers, one that would bring back the dead to walk amongst the living. He will never be the same if you do. He will be a shadow self, a dark creature, but you will have him. So that's basically, okay, going back to the movie, that's basically exactly what the aunts tell Sally in the movie when she wants to bring Michael back from the dead. They say he'll come back as something dark and unnatural. Mothers had done this with children only to have the rescued child run away into the woods, a feral creature with no memory of the past. So, like a changeling?
Like a changeling?
And it then also says wives had brought back husbands who had afterward left them for other women, or stolen from them, or murdered them in their sleep. Maria didn't care. She was ready to make the bargain.
Oh my God.
So she hit Samuel's chest one last time, ready to take up a knife so that she might cut her arm to mix her blood with his, the beginning of this dreaded spell. But before she could, Samuel opened his eyes. He had been dead until Maria forced his heart into beating. He'd returned from the dark water, from the darkness of the endless depth, where he had seen his father sitting in a garden chair, waving him away. So, I don't think Samuel Diaz comes back as something dark and unnatural after Maria invokes Hekate here, because he was never actually dead. She never completes the invocation, which calls for her to cut her arm and mix her blood with his. Right. He wakes up before she's able to do this and complete the invocation, so he must have never actually been completely dead. So that's my take on it anyway. So the passage goes on to say, he'd returned from the dark water, from the darkness of the endless depth, where he had seen his father sitting in a garden chair waving him away. Don't be a fool, Abraham Diaz called to his son. She's waiting for you, you stupid man. So I think Samuel was in that weird liminal space between life and death, where he sees his father, who says, nah bro, your women still need you, and then he sends his ass back to the land of the living. So Samuel had the choice to go back to Maria or cross over, and he chose to live.
Well, I think he was actually dead because she said she couldn't hear his heartbeat. She pounded on his chest, CPR, so she hit his heart back into rhythm. However, in that time, I think he had that interaction with his father, and she didn't complete this whatever spell she was going to do. She had been hitting him.
Yeah.
And in that time, he resuscitated, and she didn't do any magic. She did medical EMT work.
This actually brings me back to your theory with Jimmy in the film, where you were like, was he actually dead the whole time, or was he? They were gonna stick the pins in his eyes. They never do. Right. Okay. Right. They never completed that spell, but he still resurrected.
Yeah.
So was he actually dead, or was he like, what the fuck?
Yeah. What?
What the hell, David Blaine?
Yeah.
Like, that to me makes no sense. Like, how was Jimmy able to resurrect in the film if they never completed the spell? They never actually stuck those pins in his eyes like they were supposed to.
Yeah.
And they never used the correct ingredients for that constitute spell. So my thought is, like, if they didn't do anything right according to the page in the book, in the spell book, then how was he able to still come back as something dark and unnatural?
What did they do so wrong that it like was its own spell? Like they did all these things so incorrectly that it brought him back, because I think if he had popped up without his eyes being all but like bananas, then we would be like, oh, okay, it was the tequila and the belladonna. And he's awake. Surprise. But since his like eyes are all fucking
glassy.
weird and he's just looking like a demon.
Like a diamond. Okay, we used it. Well, that brings me back to another one of our theories that we've had in the past. Maybe Jimmy was never, well, he was originally not Jimmy Angelov. He was this regular Joe Schmo man. We talked about this in our Devil of the Desert episode, I think. One of the Jimmy episodes where we did like his character analysis. And we were talking about how he was this regular Joe Schmo man, okay? He sold his soul to the devil at the crossroads when the devil granted him must have granted him immortality, right? Mm-hmm. Gave him what he wanted, gave him this suave personality to get all the ladies, kill them, take their souls, put them in his ring, okay? Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So maybe that's why he never actually died, like when, okay, his heart stopped, he stopped breathing, whatever, they got him on the slab, but maybe he was just like, kind of, it was culminating that like soul inside of him that was like, that immortality, he was coming back as something dark and unnatural on his own. He didn't need the resurrected spell because he was already immortal by whatever entity that he sold his soul to down that older road.
Maybe he only got like a one cat life. You know, you get to die one time and come back.
One time? I don't know because we also said he was a body jumper, right?
Yeah, that's true.
We also said he was a body
jump
jumper.
into Jillian.
Exactly. So I think he just finds like different souls to feed off of, and who's to say that he wasn't in Phoebe Stone at one point after he defeated her? So I don't know. I'm just thinking.
Your Sag brain has got me all tangled.
I'm throwing red strings all over the place.
You are tangled in the string.
I'm just trying to make sense of it all. Because I think these book passages are so interesting, right? And tying back with the movie is just making my brain tickle.
It's very tickly up in here because I think there's a lot of material, different source material, and what they were able to do in the film with Alice's work. And then she's like, okay, let me add on to this, but I'm going to change it. She also kind of changes up how some people die. She doesn't remember birthdays sometimes. So I think with the actual witchcraft, a lot of liberties were taken, and it's not set in stone.
No, it's not. It's not set in Phoebe Stone.
That's right. Yeah.
So yeah, moving on to Rules of Magic. There's no Hekate, Mighty Hektate in Rules of Magic at all. So we're going to go right to the last book, Book of Magic, and this starts on page 128. So, the longer it took to discover a way to end the curse, the more likely she was to lose Gideon. And I guess this is talking about Kylie, right? According to the Book of the Raven, her first act should be to create the sign of the Pentacle of Solomon to summon the spirit of Hekate, goddess of the crossroads and sorcery. If she did so, she would discover the direction in which she would find the knowledge she needed. On page 298, Margaret, Ian's mother, gives Jillian a recipe and spell to help her bear a child. I'm not desperate, Jillian was quick to correct her. Just take a look, Margaret suggested. So this is the spell that Margaret gives Jillian. Take 2 lettuce roots and pour urine upon them. If the root shrivels, throw it out. If it germinates, plant it in a pot on your windowsill. Boil garlic each night and eat the entire bowl. Bake the following cake and feed it to the man involved using eggs, flour, milk, your blood, and honey. Be on top and he will be hungry for more. So Jillian's like, what is this? Right? And so Jillian says that, gazing up at the cunning woman before her, recite the incantation each night. Jillian turned the card over, tears rimming her eyes. So it says, Goddess of the night, Hekate, honored above all, you are the beginning, you are the end. From you are all things, and in you, eternal one, all things end. So Margaret Wright says, this is the recipe that worked for me when I wanted a child. I've been grateful ever since. Earlier in the book, on page 40, before Margaret even gives Jillian that invocation to Hekate to help her with childbearing, there's a passage that says, she ate pomegranate seeds and olive oil, honey and cinnamon, and had even tried the ancient ritual of bringing a toad to sleep in her bed, all to no avail. So again, going back to toad lore and the connections to Hekate or Hekate. Hekate was the frog-headed goddess of fertility and childbirth, believed to assist in conception and deliver babies. Her priestesses were often midwives. So I thought that was interesting.
That is cool.
Little connection to childbirth there too.
Yeah.
And the frogs again. So I also think it's interesting that there are absolutely zero mentions of Hekate or mighty Hektate in book 1, right? That was written prior to the 1998 movie. Then we have the movie that introduces this resurrection lore, mispronounces her name, so we think, right? The Hektate. And then in 2 of the final books in the series that were done years after the film, Alice still makes it a point to take the presence of Hekate and the whole resurrection lore from the film and incorporates it into the plots of the 2 final books because the resurrection wasn't even a thing in book 1. Isn't that wild?
That's cool. She was taking notes.
Yeah.
She was seeing what was flying, and she said, I see what they're doing.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's talk about this film. We know the quote as when the girls are doing the resurrection spell on Jimmy, the quote that they are chanting is black as night, erase death from our sight, white as light, mighty Hektate, make it right. Hektate is what they say. It's that memorable moment, but here's the thing, right? Hektate isn't a real goddess. We've done this research. We were trying to find the connection. Is this an actual person? Hekate is, however, the real goddess we'll be talking about. In Greek mythology, she's the goddess of witchcraft, crossroads, and the unseen world, and she's still venerated today by modern pagan traditions, which begs the question, why did the filmmakers change her name? Why create a goddess who doesn't exist when the real one already stood waiting in the mystic wings? Also, because of its close tie to Hekate, we're saying goddess, right? But watching this film as a youth, and they're saying Hektate, this like in the craft they call on Manon. So it could be a god. I had no idea at the time watching it, so I'm glad we did our research.
Right, yeah. Going back to that, when I was 13, I had no idea who the fuck this Manon was, but in the craft, like, I didn't know it was a fictional, they made up that deity.
Right, but it makes sense. It makes sense as something that could be.
Exactly.
It's quintessence. It's everything in between.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I do appreciate that the film industry, like, even though they're, pulling from this, that, and the other thing to kind of form the basis for their films, like different witch practices, I do like how they're giving it that sense of fiction still. Like, they don't want to step on any toes. So I do appreciate that about both of those films, right?
Yes. So looking at earlier drafts of the screenplay help kind of answer this. So we have 2, we're not going to read directly, but we have 2 different versions. In the February 1997 draft, the resurrection scene never actually happens. The sisters only read from the spell book. They get as far as like the grisly instructions to put the needles in the eyes of the corpse. And Jillian then nervously suggests to wait for the aunt. So Sally slams the book shut, and then they just go bury Jimmy with no magic at all. However,
but then he doesn't come back from the dead? Because
I don't know. I don't know what. I haven't dived in. I really want these to be like a surprise. But I did want to see if they mentioned any Hekate goddess. They might later on. But in this specific scene, they do not.
Okay, interesting. I didn't even think to look at the screenplay, but it's cool to go back to those every now and then to kind of see like what ended up in the film, what ended up on the cutting room floor, and there was so I guess that was something that they just decided to add last minute.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Same thing in the November draft. So November of the same year, things shift a little bit. So in that draft, they do attempt something magical, and they're doing it in Latin, and all they chant is vis spiritum, and in there it's meaning blood of the soul. So they just keep saying this vis spiritum in this. And as the scene builds, like the candles extinguish, smoke rises from the wicks, and Jimmy's hand begins to twitch. Still, there's no deity invoked, no goddess called upon. Only in the finished film do we ever hear mighty Hektate. That chant wasn't even in the novel, as we've come to find. It wasn't in these early scripts, and it seems to just have been created maybe in the moment, either on the set during reshoots. It could have been from The Witch for Hire to give the moment a more cinematic weight. So why invent Hektate Part of it comes down, I think, to the rhythm. In the chant, the words need to scan, they need to carry. So Hektate kind of rolls in that cadence, probably more easy than Hekate.
Yeah.
That extra syllable makes the rhyme flow. Mighty Hektate, make it right. Like a boop, 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 boop.
Yeah.
It's dramatic, almost musical in a way. Hekate alone isn't. There's also that echo of Shakespeare to consider. In productions of Macbeth, Hekate has traditionally been pronounced as Hekate, a holdover from Elizabethan theater. To a mainstream audience in the 90s, that mispronunciation already sounded witchy, stagey, and familiar. And then there's the matter of sensitivity, because Hekate is still worshipped by many today, and Warner Brothers may have balked at showing Sandra Bullock and Nicole Kidman chanting her name over a corpse.
Right.
So tweaking it just enough, Hekate becomes Hektate. The filmmakers could keep the aura of myth without sparking accusations of summoning that actual goddess or stepping on any toes, I guess.
I could see that, yeah.
Yeah. When you step back, it reveals something about the film as a whole and the novels. The novels and even the earlier screenplays leaned darker and stranger, rooted in folklore and a little danger. But the finished movie repeatedly softens those edges. Latin becomes rhyme, grotesque spell instructions become the whimsical chanting. We still get the needle instruction in the eyes. Never see it though.
Right.
And the real goddess becomes a made-up one, and the film is less about practicing witchcraft faithfully and more about creating an atmosphere that feels magical to the wider audience. And the sister spell isn't grounded in any real tradition. It's half understood, half invented, right? Trash witchery.
Yep.
It's these desperate acts of the two women who don't know what they're doing. In that sense, the misnaming of Hekate mirrors that chaos. They're invoking something they only half understand.
I like that thought process.
Yeah.
That makes
Maybe it was written out Hekate and they're
Maybe.
just so panicked that they're like, Sally's like, okay, here's how you say it.
That could very well be.
Yeah. They're not seasoned witches invoking an ancient deity. They're scrambling in this dark kitchen, making up words that sound purposeful and powerful, hoping it works at all. And even the lips person wind over tongue in motion. How does Sally know that's a...
Yeah. And she's like, kind of like... She's like, it's the blind leading the blind there. Like, she's being like, no, Jillian, that's not how you do it. This is how you do it. But, like, how does Sally know how to do it?
Yes.
No?
There's another in the script. It does say that the lips person wind over tongue in motion, teeth on edge. Then Jillian says, what do you mean? What, like CPR? And that's it, like this. And then she shows her the technique. And that's all I'm showing you.
Okay.
So, yeah, like... Which makes more sense if you're blowing into a corpse to try to bring it back.
The way Maria did to Samuel Diaz when he was drowning.
There it is. So
there it is.
That could, I'm thinking like to resurrect somebody, you have to breathe life into them, not like
or stick pins in their eyes.
I don't know. Anyway, compromise we see on screen is a chant that sounds witchy. It's less dramatic, but doesn't carry as much authenticity. It's theatrical, not practical. And that's the part of the film's charm. So the next time that you watch this resurrection scene, remember that Hektate doesn't come from myth or from Alice Hoffman's book even, or even the original scripts. It came from Hollywood's need for something that rhymed. It was something that sounded magical and wouldn't get them into trouble. So
I wanted to ask you about where you were saying they chant Vispiritum, meaning the blood of the soul. That word is written on the spell book page with the frog. It's written on something, right?
Is it?
I thought it was.
Oh, we'll have to look. It's on page 3. So it does say spiritus. Yes, it does say Vispiritum.
That's what
You
I
are
thought.
correct.
That's what I thought. Okay, so they had it in the script, but they didn't say it in the movie. But I'm wondering if they give the script to, obviously Stephen Alish is the one now. We know he designed a lot of the... Oh, do you think he did all of the book pages or just some of them?
We gotta ask him, like, did he get the script first? I need to talk to him.
Yeah, we need to talk to him. But I'm wondering, like, okay, so say Stephen Alish did that page, right?
Yeah.
Did he get the script and saw that they were saying Vispiritum, so then in turn he wrote it in the book?
I think that would be how he would do it, yes. but we gotta ask him.
Interesting.
You got good memory.
All right. So that's all we have for the film and the books, right? So we're gonna do our break now, and then when we come back, we'll do a card pull, and then we're gonna get all into, I guess, the myth, the lore, the legend of one of the many Titan goddesses, Hekate, and then we're gonna sit down with our very special guest today, right?
That's right.
All right. So all that and more, we'll be right back. Hey, little witches! It's finally here. Our debut album, Welcome to the Neighborhood, The Magnolia Street Sessions Volume 1, is out and available for download and streaming now. Inspired by the magic and mystery of practical magic, this album is more than just a collection of songs. It's a spellbinding experience.
We've poured our hearts into each track, blending witchy vibes, soulful melodies, and magical touches that we know would be Owens approved. And now we're ready to share it with you, our incredible community. Every note, every word is crafted with the intention to transport you to Magnolia Street.
You can listen to it wherever you get your music. Spotify, Apple Music, Bandcamp, you name it.
And the best part, you can support us directly by purchasing the digital album on Bandcamp right now. Head over to www.thestinasofmagnoliastreet.bandcamp.com and experience the magic.
So whether you're lighting candles, brewing tea, or just soaking in the magic of the season, we hope this album will be your perfect soundtrack, and we can't wait for you to hear it.
At that house on Magnolia Street.
Hey, we're the Stinas, and you're listening to Magnolia Street Podcast.
Are we pulling?
I'm not gonna pull. I kind of summed up like a generalization between like the High Priestess and the Empress cards. And the tarot, when you work with the tarot, the major arcana has the High Priestess and the Empress, both very divine feminine cards. So I thought it would be cool if we just talked about those and just gave a basic rundown of those two cards, those two ladies of the major arcana, and how they both can be connected to Hekate, but then like how they're kind of different in their own way.
I'm pulling out that book that Tom gave me, The Sacred Symbols and Objects.
Yeah.
And guess who's in here? They mention, I was looking for Hekate, but they mention Hekate under frogs. So how about that? Yes. Also, okay, so frogs are sacred to the Egyptian, midwife of the gods, crone goddess Hekate, prototype of the Greeks, Hekate.
There it is.
Amazing. So I didn't get as far as looking for Hekate here, but I thought that was pretty cool. This is a really cool book.
All right. Is there like a whole page on
Oh, my lord. Hekate has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Like 12 mentions, like 12 different pages.
Okay.
You could go check her out in this book.
I'm interested to see what else that frog page says.
It says, the frog probably represents the human fetus, which it roughly resembles, because little frogs, appearing with the first signs of the annual Nile flood, were heralds of life-giving fertility in Egypt. People place frog amulets on mummies to help find rebirth. Mother Hecate's amulet of the frog bore the words, I am the resurrection.
The resurrection spell!
I know!
Shut the front door.
The frog prince of medieval fairy tales points to some resemblance of the frog's benevolent regenerative powers, although, or perhaps because, frogs were often cited as the familiars of witches. It is said that a burial, Beryl, engraved with the image of a frog would make friends out of former enemies. Magic books claimed that a frog's tongue placed under a man's pillow would force him to speak all his secrets in his sleep. Because of their associations with water, frogs often figured prominently in rain charms.
Okay. Interesting how in the beginning of that it referred to the frog as like the fetus, when in the Book of Magic, Margaret, Ian's mother, gives Jillian that spell to conceive, right?
Yeah.
Interesting.
What are you doing? Cool.
Interesting. Okay. All right. So jumping into the tarot here. Here's a little bit about the High Priestess and the Empress and how Hekate can, I guess, be represented by both of these different cards. So when we talk about the divine feminine in the tarot, two archetypes often rise to the surface, the High Priestess and the Empress. Both are nurturing and motherly, protective, and deeply feminine figures, but they express that energy in very different ways. Okay, so let's start with the High Priestess. So the High Priestess is the garden of mystery and intuition. She sits at the threshold of the seen and unseen worlds, veiled between pillars of light and shadow. Her wisdom is internal, hidden, and esoteric. She doesn't rush forward with action. She waits, she knows, and she guides others to discover what lies beneath the surface. In this way, she resonates with Hekate as the goddess of the crossroads and liminal spaces. Hekate, too, dwells between worlds, holding torches to illuminate the darkness for those who are ready to face it. Just as the High Priestess encourages us to trust our inner knowing, Hekate challenges seekers to confront mystery and shadow in order to find truth. The High Priestess archetype, specifically in practical magic, the following characters, these embody mystery, liminality, and the Keeper of Secrets, and that energy that resonates with both Hekate and the High Priestess card. So the first character that comes to mind, Franny Owens, right? Franny is the keeper of the family's magical knowledge and the one who seems most aligned with lunar mystery and that esoteric wisdom. Her no-nonsense exterior hides a profound intuitive knowing, making her a living High Priestess. And she kind of like takes on that responsibility from Isabel Owens, right? When Isabel passes away, she kind of passes the torch to Franny in that vision when she came to Franny in that hallway just before she passes, right? So Isabel Owens, another one. In the Rules of Magic, Isabel serves as the High Priestess-like figure to the younger Owens children. She holds the family's magical lineage, she teaches through riddles and presence, and embodies the liminal wisdom of Hekate, right? And she did so when she comes to Franny in that vision, the apparition, rather. And she passes along that esoteric knowledge, kind of passing the torch. And then we have Regina Owens, and also in Rules of Magic, remember when she comes to Franny as this like spectral vision to kind of heed warning of her mother, April's impending doom, and her physical body's on the West Coast, but she visits Franny, who is on the East Coast on Magnolia Street. So she transcends the boundaries of distance and space and time. So that liminal presence ties her to that High Priestess archetype. And there's probably others. If you have any that come to mind, feel free to discuss if you want. Then there's also the Empress. And by contrast, the Empress represents fertility, abundance, and the protective aspect of nature. She's the mother who nourishes, who creates, who embodies the sensual fullness of life. While the High Priestess holds back the secrets of the moon, the Empress brings forth the harvest under its light. So Hekate connects to this energy as well, though. She is often depicted as the protector of women, children, and animals. And in some traditions, she presides over these cycles of birth, like we talked about with the whole frog, but also death and growth and decay. The Empress mirrors Hecate's role as a guardian of life's fertility, whether that means literal childbirth or creative inspiration or the flourishing of one's magical practice. And like when we talked to Vin a little earlier, the interview portion is going to come out after what we're talking about now. So you guys will see when you listen to that interview. But he was talking about how he, even though he's never birthed children, never birthed his own children, he's kind of taking on that motherly role. And that's kind of, I guess, how he embodies Hekate in his own way. So some of the Empress archetypes in practical magic, more specifically, these characters are more so embodying the nurture, the life-giving, the protective aspects of Hekate through the lens of that Empress card. So first we have Sally Owens, right? As a mother and a healer, Sally embodies the Empress's protective, fertile, and nurturing qualities. She's grounded in the material world. She's deeply concerned with safety and the home and the family and giving her daughters, like even though Michael's passed away and now she's got to uproot the girls and move them in with the aunts, she's still trying to give them some sense of normalcy and some sense of routine. And like, you will brush your teeth before bed. There will be no chocolate, all the stuff that the aunts kind of are like, pish tosh, do whatever you want. Yeah. Sally's very much the opposite. She's making sure the girls have a very stable, very normal, grounded life, even though that now they don't have a father. Like the Empress, Sally is manifesting abundance in the domestic realm. Then we have, in stark contrast to Franny, right, we have Jet, and Jet's more of that warmth and gentle energy, that gentle care, especially in the Rules of Magic and in practical magic. She echoes the Empress's sense of maternal abundance and that sweetness. She gives a little, even though we think maybe there might be a little darker stuff under the surface. Yeah. She's the aunt that provides the comfort and makes life feel full and maybe a little more whimsical, you know?
Yeah, she's so gentle and just naturally nurturing. Go check out all of our character analysis episodes. We have yet to do Maria, but
Right.
Justina's going to tell us now how she connects with this. But yeah, all of everything you're connecting with these women is perfect with the Empress card and the High Priestess. Very cool.
Right, especially when you think back to like how both of those girls, well, when they were younger girls, Franny and Jet, how they both came into their first experience of nurturing when they get their familiars, right? Franny's familiar kind of matches the way that she nurtures. It's kind of aloof. Like she's got a
Yes.
bird. It's very flighty. It comes and it goes. When it comes, it's there. When it's not, it's not.
Yeah.
And she's fine with that. She's fine with not really having something smothering her.
Yeah.
But when Jet receives her kitten,
Mm,
right? I forget its name it was a bird name, right? We just said it on the last
we
bird
did.
episode.
Oh my God.
It wasn't
Ren.
Magpie. Ren, yes. When she receives Ren, she feels very connected to it and she takes tender loving care with this little kitten, right? And it's kind of like it gives her that little spark back that she needed after she was mourning the death of was it Levi and her parents, and went through that very traumatic experience, but saw this little beacon of light and really nurtured it, and she kind of turned her grief into something that she could pour back, like tender loving care back into.
Yeah. Yeah. They really reflect the character's personality and the familiars that choose them, you know?
Exactly.
Even
And
with
then-
Vincent in the dog, his dog.
Yeah, yes. And then we have Maria Owens. At times, right, in magic lessons, Maria's fierce protectiveness over her descendants and her embodiment of natural magic rooted in herbs and remedies ties her closely to that fertile, life-giving power of the Empress. But I also thought it was interesting how Maria's able to like switch from that nurturing, loving Empress to that like goddess, a badass bitch, high priestess energy when, you know, you don't want to fuck with Maria. Like she wasn't afraid to like go to the dark place when she wanted to bring her Samuel's father back, right? She was like summoning like the seal of Solomon, and she was doing all the dark magic for the people she loved,
Right.
ultimately, but she wasn't afraid to go to that dark place either. So I think Maria is the perfect balance between both of those energies.
I like that.
Yeah. And then, but together, these cards both remind us of Hecate's dual nature. She's both the keeper of hidden wisdom and nurturer of life cycles. One hand holds the torch of the high priestess, illuminating the mysteries of the soul, and the other hand holds the fruit of the empress, reminding us that wisdom is not only for contemplation, but also for creation and protection and the sustaining of life. So when you pull either of these cards in a spread, you might be hearing Hecate's voice, sometimes as the whisper of intuition, and sometimes as the embrace of the mother, but always as a guide who helps you navigate the thresholds of your own journey. And then some characters in Practical Magic kind of blur the line, right? Showing how Hekate is both the High Priestess and the Empress. We have, we were just saying how Maria kind of embodies both. Then we have Jillian Owens. She leans more toward the Empress with her sensuality and vitality, yet her survival of trauma and the ability to walk between life and death connects her more to the High Priestess energy. So she's kind of like a crossroads character, right? Very Italian in her duality.
Yeah.
And then we have Kylie and Antonia, Sally's daughters, and they carry seeds of both archetypes. Kylie's psychic sensitivity connects her to the High Priestess, while Antonia's grounded and fiery nature is more Empress-like, right? She, Antonia in the books is the one that is ready to bear a child, bring a child into this world. So she's connecting more with that. And also that motherly intuition, right? Even though she's not a mother yet, she has a child in the womb. Now she's able to kind of like reach her sister in like that dream realm.
She's tapping into all that Claire energy.
Exactly. Yeah.
That baby.
Right. So if you imagine Hecate's torches, one is held by the High Priestess figure, Franny, Isabel, Regina, lighting the mysteries of the unseen. And the other is held by the Empress figures like Sally, Jet, and Maria. And then we have some of the ones that were that dual expression. So the shine on love, protection, life cycles, and together the Owens women show how Hekate lives through both archetypes at once. You can embody all of those energies as a woman, right? Or even as a human being in general. You don't have to be a woman to feel that motherly bond with a child or an animal, you know?
I think that Hekate is all over this film because as far as duality, we have the three sets of sisters that are supposed to be night and day. Even in like Alice Hoffman's interview, she talked about envisioning this story. All she pictured at first were two sisters that were complete opposites, right? And so, the more we learn about the sisters, we learn that they're more like them. What leads us to believe.
Right.
But we also see the maiden mother crone aspect, and she is a triple goddess, isn't she? Like life, death, life cycle.
Yeah, so I just wanted to do a little of that tarot because
That's cool.
Yeah, I think it's so often overlooked, right? Like we don't often, when we think of deities, we don't often think of like, how can I connect tarot energies to my deity? And I like, that's one thing that I love to do is having tarot card energies present on my altar, no matter like who I'm working with, or like I try to find some kind of connection. So it's just another way to bring your tarot practice into your deity practice and cross the two together.
Yeah. Sometimes it makes it easier to understand because definitely doing our tarot episodes, at least for the major arcana, framing it in a pop culture way that we're so obsessed with. I was like, this makes so much sense than trying to memorize it or like memorize the Rider Waite, all the little symbolism, which are cool, which they have so much more to say if you are doing a reading with them. But to get just like a basic grasp of the major arcana, great way to do it.
Yeah, I love taking a gander through taking a walk through the Fool's Journey. It's really cool, especially you can look through the lens of the Fool's Journey with any one of your favorite novels, favorite movies, and find the archetypes that kind of correspond with your favorite characters.
Yeah.
It's just a fun way to approach the tarot, and it's a much more digestible way, like you said. I agree.
Yeah. Let's talk about Hekate's story, where she started and where she's come now. So her story reaches back before Olympians. Some traditions call her a pre-Olympian, a chthonic goddess tied to earth and sky and the sea. The earliest source we have is Hesiod's Theogony, written around 700 BCE. And there she is described in surprising detail. We learned in our interview she was a titan, which fucking badass.
Yeah. Is that, if I'm understanding correctly, that's different than a goddess? That's not a goddess? Okay.
I think so, because in Disney's Hercules, I think the Titans at one point tried to overthrow the gods because there was some imbalance. So the gods imprisoned them in the underworld, I guess.
Is that why they're clashing? It's a clash of the Titans? Is that what that is?
Yes.
Making all the connections. Tell us more.
Hesiod tells us that Hekate was the daughter of Asteria, and Zeus himself honored her above all, granting her power over land, sea, and the heavens. One of the trickiest parts of Hekate's mythology is her parentage. In the earliest source, Hesiod tells us that she is the only child of Perseus and Asteria, making her a cousin to Artemis and Apollo. And that fits her liminal role, straddling both Titan and Olympian world. But later traditions couldn't seem to agree. Some say she was the daughter of Zeus himself, or of Hera, or of Nyx, the goddess of night. Others claim her mother was Demeter, or even that she sprang from Tartarus. These shifting genealogies hint at how she was adapted by different cults and reshaped to fit their needs. Part Titan, part Olympian, part primordial.
So if she was, some claim her mother was Demeter, would that make Persephone her sister?
Yeah.
Interesting, because if you look on the card of the Rider Waite, the high priestess behind her are pomegranates, and that's the symbol of Persephone and the underworld.
Interesting. Okay. It sounds like different scholars had different ideas of where she could have originated from.
Right. Yeah. So
I don't know.
Okay.
Unlike many goddesses, Hekate is usually described as a virgin deity, without husband or consort, yet myths occasionally give her a monstrous or magical offspring. Some versions say she mothered the sea monster Scylla through either Phorobus or Phorcys. Others connected her with Aeetes, making her the mother of Circe and Medea. That's dope. Two of the most famous witches in Greek myth. It's as if storytellers kept circling back to her as the hidden root of sorcery itself. There are darker stories too. In one, Hermes tried to force himself upon her. Bad boy Hermes. Hekate roared in fury. Some say she snorted like a beast and drove him off. From this, she earned the epitaph Brimo, meaning the angry one. So her family tree is less a neat diagram and more of a hall of mirrors, technically. Daughter of Titans, Olympians, and primordial gods, mother of monsters, witches, and none at all. Each version reveals how fluid and unsettling her place in the Greek imagination really is. And we have a flowchart that is just one idea. It sets up the Titans and the originals being Uranus and Mother Gaia. And from there, it kind of trickles down. So then we have Hekate just kind of off with Perseus and Asteria. And Asteria is also the sibling to Leto. Leto and Zeus got together and had Apollo and Artemis at one point. It's all. Alice took her notes of incest from Greek mythology.
I was just gonna say that. I was gonna say this reminds me of the Owens family tree.
It really does.
That is so funny.
Yeah. So unlike many of the old Titan gods, she lost nothing when Zeus rose to power. In fact, he gave her even more. She was free to bestow wealth, victory, good harvest, or safe passage to whoever she chose. Fishermen prayed to her for their catch, shepherds for their flock, horsemen for their speed, kings for wise judgment. Hesiod even calls her a nurse of the young, watching over children as they grew into the light of dawn. Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Okay, she's not seeming so scary now.
Right. Yeah. And that it goes back to the whole Medusa thing. Remember when we talked about Medusa and we were like so like I don't remember learning the origins of Medusa and then learning like what happened to her before she became the monster. I'm like, well, gee, I wonder fucking why she was turning men to stone.
Yes, to protect herself.
So much more sense now. So reframing it now, reframing things to like, well, maybe she was a woman scorned makes so much sense.
What is striking is how highly Hesiod praises her, far more than most other writers of his time. Scholars have puzzled over this. Some think Hesiod's hometown may have had strong Hekate cults. I'm going to probably ping pong back and forth with how I say it. I do apologize.
I know. I tend to do that too because I'm still undecided.
She don't care apparently. So
we could at this point just call her Mighty Hektate.
That's right. So so Hesiod included her in some of his poems as a way to elevate her prestige. Others suggest that her worship was so widespread in households, small shrines at doorways, offerings in private homes, that she was deeply rooted in everyday life, even if not as visible in grand temples. We also see her in the Homeric hymn to Demeter, composed about a century later. Here she is called tender-hearted. When Persephone is stolen into the underworld, Hekate is the one who guides Demeter in her search. There you go. Helping her out her sister, pointing her to Helios, the sun, who witnessed the crime. Later, Hekate becomes Persephone's companion on her yearly descent and return, torch in hand and a psychopomp guiding the way. And this shows up actually in that Lore Olympus online comic.
Yeah.
It's really a cool retelling of Greek mythology and Persephone's, you can say love story or abduction to her uncle, Hades.
Yeah, why is it considered a love story? She was abducted. Right.
I know.
Yeah.
So because of this, Hekate was honored in the Eleusinian mysteries, alongside Demeter and Persephone, initiations that promised hope for the afterlife. So, from the very beginning, Hekate is both vast and intimate, a goddess of cosmic scope, sky, sea, and earth, and yet also a protector of children, households, and the soul's passage into darkness and back again. So this is kind of like a good time of year to maybe educate yourself about her.
Yeah, especially as we head into the darker months of the year, and like it's a great time to delve more into the shadow work, and even like Hekate, we're learning that she's maybe not so scary of a goddess to work with. She still kind of embodies those darker energies, so she might not be a bad one to try to, if you don't want to call upon her, maybe try to learn more about her. So perfect episode to do around this time, I think. So let's talk about the etymology. So both Hekate and Hekate, however you want to spell it, either with a C or with a K, they're both valid spellings for the name of the Greek goddess associated with magic, witchcraft, and the crossroads. The spelling Hekate with the C is the Latinized version, while Hekate with the K is the transliteration from the original Greek. So scholars and those devoted to the Greek goddess may prefer Hekate with the K, while those interested in the Roman interpretation might use Hekate with the C. So Hekate or Hekate, as the Greeks would have said, is one of those figures who refuses to sit neatly in one box. Hekate was known by a number of epitaphs. So first we have Aionos, and this is spelled a couple different ways, Aionios or Aeneas, Aos, and that means eternal or age-long or ever-flowing. Then we have Aglos, Aglaos, which means beautiful, bright, and pleasing. Then we have Atropia, the one that turns away or protects. Brimo, which means the furious, the avenging, the dreaded, or crackling flame. I like that.
That's a cool name.
Yeah. Then we have Chthoniya, of the earth or underworld. Then we have Enodia, which means she on the way or on the road. How do you say this one? Erototokos, which means producing love or the bearer of love. Indalimos, which means the beautiful. Kleidoshos, holding the keys or as the keeper of the keys of Hades. There you go.
Yeah, she is his like CEO of his like big corporation in this comic. It's really funny. So yeah, she keeps him in line.
I like that. Korotrophos, the nurse of children. Krokopeplos, saffron cloaked. Melano, it doesn't say what that one means. Then we have Phosphoros or Lampadiferos, which means bringing or bearing light. We have Propolos, which means who serves or attends. Propulia or Propilia, which means before the gate. And there's just a couple more here. Soteria or Soteria, which means savior. Trimorph, which means three-formed. Or Triodia or Trioditis, which means who frequents the crossroads. We did an episode, I don't remember which one it was, but it was like a triple goddess with, I think, Hekate, Selene, and one other one. Was it Artemis or something? There was another episode where we talked about like a triple goddess. It was like a I don't remember what they called it. It was like a triple goddess thing.
I can't remember. I'm sorry.
For the life of me what it was. I may have put it in here somewhere.
Yeah.
But yeah. Anyway, so the Greeks called on her for many things, like night and magic and witchcraft, even protection of the household. In fact, Athenians set up shrines by her or to her by their front doors, placing her alongside Zeus and Hestia, a goddess of the hearth, Hermes and Apollo as a guardian of the home. But she was also honored far from the center of the Greek world. Witches in Thessaly claimed her as their patroness, and in Asia Minor she had a famous sanctuary at Lagina. The earliest mention we have of her is in Hesiod's Theogony, all the way back in the 8th century BCE, where she's described as a goddess of enormous power, with sway over land, sea, and sky, and later traditions expanded her reach even more. The Chaldean oracles of late antiquity.
We just talked about them. Do you remember?
Yes,
okay.
I do. Yeah, the late antiquity called her the savior, the mother of angels, even the soul of the cosmos itself. I don't remember what it was in reference to, but I definitely remember that name like recently coming up.
I think it was the Magus. Because I couldn't pronounce it, yeah.
Okay, yeah. Chaldean. The Romans came to know her as Trivia, literally, quote, 3 ways, a nod to her presence at the crossroads, a role that she shared with That's it. That's the triple thing I was
Diana and Artemis. Okay.
Diana and Artemis, yep.
I didn't know trivia meant 3 ways.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah, so that's also where we see her, quote, triple-bodied form take shape. What's constant, though, is that Hekate always feels like she lives on the margins between light and dark, life and death, the everyday and the magical, which is maybe why she's remained such a powerful figure for witches and storytellers ever since. And I have another quick little thought just popped into my head about how they're saying that Hekate is triple-bodied, which also makes me think of Hekate and the Cerberus, which was the dogs guarding the underworld.
Yeah.
Right? And we also know that Hekate, one of her big symbols is the dog.
Oh, yeah.
So that I'm just making all the connections here now.
Yeah.
So interesting. So even Hecate's name is wrapped in mystery. Some scholars think it comes from the Greek word hekon, meaning willing, as in she who works her will. But here's the catch. None of her myths ever describe willpower as one of her defining traits, so that explanation doesn't quite add up. Another theory traces her name to Hekatos, a little used title of Apollo meaning the far darter?
Like to dart far, to like go far.
The farter, or the far-reaching one, because Apollo's twin sister Artemis shared so much overlap with Hekate, like torches and wild places and the night. Some believe Hekate may have originally been seen as an extension of Artemis, the hunter, right? The huntress. Over time, Artemis became more associated with purity and maidenhood, while the darker liminal aspects, like ghosts and magic and the night, gathered more under Hekate's name. But even this theory doesn't explain everything. Hekate's strongest cult centers were actually in Asia Minor, far from the heart of Greek religion. That's why some researchers think her name and maybe even her worship could be even older than the Greeks themselves, borrowed from an earlier pre-Greek culture. And then there's the way that we say her name, right? I guess in more modern times, like in Shakespeare's time, which is a lot more modern than ancient Greece.
Right.
In Shakespeare's time, people often dropped the final E, like the Hekate or Hekate, and pronounced it Hekate, which we're just saying Hekate. So it's just that two syllables. So in fact, early English translators of Ovid used that exact spelling, which is Hecate. It wasn't until later centuries that the three-syllable Hekate or Hekate took hold, which is why you'll still hear both versions today, depending on whether someone's quoting Macbeth or quoting modern witchcraft.
Nice. So even with the closed captions on, when you've watched the scene in Practical Magic, it says Hektate, right?
It does, yeah.
It doesn't say Hecate, still says Hektate, which we think could be Hecate. Okay, I was just double checking because we're learning all this cool linguistic stuff now, which is neat.
Yeah, etymology is a lot of fun.
Yeah. Some scholars believe Hekate wasn't originally Greek at all, right? Evidence points east to Anatolia, which is modern-day Turkey, where the Carians worshipped her as a great goddess in her own right. Her most famous sanctuary is at Lagina, a site so important that festivals and processions were dedicated just to her. Some even think she has roots in the region's sun goddesses, sharing their symbols and power. When her cult moved into Greece, things got complicated. The Greeks already had Artemis and Selene to cover the moon, night, and wilderness, so Hecate's presence created overlap. And that's why many historians think of her as a, quote, foreign goddess, adopted into the Greek pantheon. Other than Hesiod's theogony, Greek myths never give her a tidy family tree or clear parentage. She just is, powerful, liminal, or just a little outside the system. And then there's Egypt, okay? We're back to the frog. Some researchers have noticed her name sounds strikingly close to that Egyptian goddess Hekate with the Q, a frog-headed goddess of fertility and childbirth. Even more intriguing, in Egyptian, the word Heka means magic. It's also the name of their god of magic and medicine. Whether coincidence or cultural borrowing, it ties Hekate even more firmly in her role as the mistress of sorcery. In classic Athens, Hekate appears in many guises. In fragments of Aeschylus, she is honored as the great goddess. Sophocles or Euripides cast her more darkly, a mistress of witchcraft, and the Keres, Keres, those death spirits who haunted battlefields. I've never heard of those.
It sounds like what are those things from Harry Potter? The Death
Eaters.
Death Eaters? Yeah.
Dude, they had their thirst trap year last year on TikTok. You remember?
They did. I don't hate it.
But then they take their masks off and it's just like Dylan from accounting.
Just gonna say like a Joe Schmo.
Yeah.
I was gonna say Jimmy before he sold his soul to the devil.
Yes.
Right? James Hawkins.
James Hawkins. One curious strand of stories connects her to Iphigenia. In these tales, Hekate is imagined as a mortal priestess who defies Artemis. She insults the goddess, and in return, Artemis drives her to a tragic end. Some see in this a mythic explanation of how Hekate, once mortal, might have been woven into the pantheon without displacing Artemis. By the Hellenistic age, her role as the chthonic goddess was firmly set. In the Argonautica, Jason is told to appease Hekate with a midnight ritual: bathe in a flowing stream, wear dark robes, dig a pit, slit the throat of a ewe, burn it whole as an offering, sweeten the sacrifice with honey, and then leave without looking back. No matter what you hear, footsteps, barking dogs, all signs that Hekate, the goddess of the night, has come to accept her due. In late antiquity, Hekate is still there, but now she fights beside the Olympians in the Gigantomachy. She stands with Artemis and slays the giant Clytius, using her torches. On the Pergamon altar, she is carved with 3 weapons, one in each hand: torch, sword, and lance. It's a lance! Hello! Do you remember?
No.
This is from A Knight's Tale.
Yo, I can't tell you the last time I saw that movie.
Yo, we just watched the other night. It holds up to this day. She's a terrible... Oh, that princess. She's a cunt. Okay. So Hecate also enters the world of philosophy and magic. In the Chatelaine oracles, she is the great feminine force associated with the spinning strophalos, a whirling device of ritual power. Labor thou around the strophalos of Hecate, the text says, hinting at secret rites. Through syncretism, she became linked with other powerful goddesses. In the Golden Ass, we've talked
There's
about...
that word. There's that thing. Is that a book? The poem?
It is again. Yes.
Talked about that before.
Apuleius blends her with Juno, Bellona, Isis, one goddess wearing many masks, worshipped under many names. In magical papyri from the 3rd and 4th centuries, she is even invoked as Hekate, Erishkigal, tied to the Mesopotamian queen of the underworld. And in Gnostic texts like Pistis Sophia, her name surfaces again, a reminder of how far her influence has spread. From tragic stage to temple frieze, from mystery rites to syncretic magic, Hecate refused to vanish. She adapted, survived, and kept her torches lit across the challenging worlds of Greece, Rome, and beyond.
When most of us picture Hecate, we think of her as a triple-formed, 3 women back-to-back, torches blazing, keys and daggers in hand, dogs circling at her feet. But the earliest images weren't so elaborate. The very first statue we have of her is just a small terracotta figure from Athens, showing her seated on a throne with a simple wreath on her head. No dogs, no torches, nothing mystical about it at all. Over time, though, her image grew more complex. A fragment of pottery from Boeotia shows her in a maternal role, offering blessings to 2 young women flanked by lions. And by the late 5th century BCE, the sculptor Alcamenes introduced her triple form, 3 bodies standing around a central pillar, each facing a different direction. These Hecatia statues became common at crossroads, temple entrances, and even private homes, where she guarded thresholds and doorways. Ovid himself described her this way. He said, "Look at Hecate standing guard at the crossroads, one face looking in each direction." The triple image spread everywhere. On the great Pergamon altar, now in Berlin, she appears with 3 bodies fighting alongside the gods against the Titans. Later writers described her with 3 animal heads, like the Cerberus.
Yeah.
Right? It says 3 animal heads like a dog, a serpent, or even a horse, emphasizing her link to the wild and the uncanny. Other traditions even gave her the head of a cow or a boar. One of the most striking depictions comes from her temple at Lagina, where a frieze shows her helping protect the newborn Zeus from his father Cronus. It's the only surviving artwork that places her inside a major Greek myth, reminding us that while Hecate stood apart from the Olympians, she could still step into their stories when the moment called for her. Again, dogs were Hecate's most loyal companions. In classical art, she's almost always pictured with a hound at her side, and ancient writers even called dogs her sacred animals. In some places, dogs were sacrificed to her as part of purification rites. Other images show her gently laying a wreath on a horse's head, a dog sitting faithfully beside her. To the Greeks, the dog could symbolize birth, because dogs were also linked to the midwife goddesses like Eileithyia. But over time, people began to see Hecate's dog differently, more as a restless spirit, ghostly guide trotting beside her through the night. Like we talked about when we were talking about Jane Eyre, right? They call it a specific word. I can't remember what it was, but we talked about the shook on our Black Dogs episode. Yeah. Exactly. So more of like that ghostly spirit, like right alongside of her.
Yes.
One myth even says that her faithful dog was once Queen Hecuba of Troy. After the city fell, Hecuba leapt into the sea in despair, and Hecate transformed her into the familiar who would forever follow at her side. There's also the polecat, a far less glamorous companion. According to one myth, it began as a young woman named Galinthias. She was a friend of Alcmene, the mother of Heracles. When the Fates tried to block Alcmene from giving birth, Galinthias... The Fates? Oh, yes. There's a Fates, like...
You got real Greek about it.
When the Fates tried to... I did get real Greek about it. When the Fates, when they tried to block Alcmene from giving birth, Galinthias tricked them into loosening their hold. For that bit of clever defiance, the Fates punished her by twisting her into a weasel-like creature, grotesque in form. Hecate, pitying her, made her sacred. Another version says the polecat was once a sorceress named Gale, punished for her lust and witchcraft. Either way, Hekate claimed the outcast creature as her own. And then, in a strange twist, even fish were said to be sacred to her. The red mullet, or Trigla, was offered to Hekate in connection with her triple form. One old fragment of verse even addresses her directly. It says, "O Mistress Hekate, Triuditis, 3 forms and 3 faces, propitiated with mullets, dogs, polecats, fish. Her sacred animals may seem unlikely companions, but they tell..." Wait, this isn't still the quote. Okay.
I'm looking up what a polecat is because I'm
It's
like,
like-
what is a polecat? It says like weasels, ferrets, sables,
Yeah,
minks, like that kind of little animal. So cute. I think they're adorable.
You think they're cute? I thought they looked more like possums. Like, you know how they're like nasty with like the teeth, like, they're always hissing and their mouths are always open.
I think ferrets are pretty cute. Yeah.
Ferrets are cute, yeah.
Yeah. They're part of
I
that
can't.
family.
I can't when I see a possum. I'm like,
Possums are a little yuck.
I don't like them. But interestingly enough, do you know that possums can't carry the rabies
It doesn't
disease?
want it. Wow. No, didn't know that.
Their blood runs too cold. I didn't know that either. I always thought when I saw them running around town, right, all liquored up, I always thought that they were like rabies because they always look so like they want to tear your face off.
Right.
So I would always be like, oh my God, they have rabies. But I actually learned that they don't carry rabies because their blood is too cold.
Okay. I didn't know that.
Right. Anyway, back to the polecat. So the quote goes, "O Mistress Hekate, Triodides, with 3 forms and 3 faces, propitiated with mullets. Dogs, polecats, and fish are her sacred animals, and that they may seem like unlikely companions, but they tell us something important about Hekate. She gathers what is liminal, overlooked, or in between, and transforms it into something powerful."
Quintessence.
Alongside her hounds and polecats, she was also linked to fish, specifically the red mullet, like we were just saying, which is a blood-colored fish the Greeks thought delighted in filth and carrion. To them, the mullet was a kind of like an underwater scavenger, I guess like a bottom feeder, you know? And so it became sacred to Hekate, the goddess who walked with the dead. At Athens, there was even a statue of Hekate Triglathena where red mullets were sacrificed in her honor. The Romans, though, took this obsession in a completely different direction. Writers like Cicero and Seneca described a full-blown craze for the red mullet in the late Republic. Wealthy Romans competed over the size of the fish, paid absurd sums of money for rare specimens, and even kept them in captivity just to watch their colors shift as they died. It was gruesome, but also for them, it was known as a form of art. Beyond fish, Hecate's imagery is full of animals that straddle the boundaries. Sometimes she appears with the heads of a cow, a dog, a boar, a serpent, or even a horse. Lions have shown up in coins and carvings from Asia Minor. Frogs, too, as we've learned, right, became associated with her, perhaps because they move between land and water, but also that Hekate, right, the frog goddess. And they're the perfect symbol for a goddess of thresholds. One mythologist even gave her the title Hipputria, the equestrian, since horses were seen as the ultimate chthonic or underworld animals. Taken together, it paints a picture of Hekate as a goddess who gathers the strange, the liminal, and the unsettling, creatures that live between worlds just as she herself does. And then we have sacred plants. The goddess is described as wearing oak in fragments of Sophocles' lost play, The Root Diggers, or The Root Cutters, and an ancient commentary of Apollonius's Argonautica describes her as having the head surrounded by serpents twining through branches of oak. So more than anything else, Hekate was the goddess of boundaries. She stood at the edges of city walls and doorways, crossroads, even the veil between the living and the dead. That's why she's so often called a liminal goddess, one who lives in the in-between, mediates not just between Olympian gods and the older titans, but also between mortal and the divine. Her many cult titles reflect this role: she who protects, she who is on the way, or she who stands before the gate, or she at the crossroads, she who holds the key, right? Each name marks her as guardian of the thresholds, both physical and spiritual. In some stories, Hekate protects travelers and households from harmful spirits, but her power went both ways. She could just as easily unleash those spirits on her enemies, right? That dual edge is part of what made her so feared but also revered. By the 5th century BCE, she was often identified with Enodia, a road goddess from Thessaly, whose very name means, quote, in the road. Together, they embody the idea of Hekate standing watch at the entrance to a city or at the threshold of a private home, torches blazing in the dark. In Byzantium, temples to Hekate stood near the city gates. Legends even say she once warned the townspeople of an attack by Philip of Macedon, her torches lighting the sky, her pack of dogs barking their alarm. And dogs, of course, were not only sacred to her, but practical. Watchdogs, especially at night, guarded entrances just as she did. And that obviously ties back to the movie and the black dog, kind of like, is the dog a psychopomp guiding Michael because it knows he's gonna be soon crossing the threshold into,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
afterlife. Very interesting. And then there are the crossroads, the shrines to Hekate, which were placed where 3 roads met, the classic trivium. Even centuries later, Christian writers were still warning converts not to leave offerings to her at those places, a sign that Hecate's power at the edges lingered long after her temples had fallen. Because she stands at thresholds, Hekate naturally became linked with the underworld. The ancients saw her as the one who held the keys, not just to gates and doorways, but to the gates of death itself. A poet in the 3rd century BCE wrote of her unlocking the passage between the worlds. Later, Virgil described the very entrance to hell as, quote, Hecate's grove, though he warned she was equally powerful in both heaven and hell. In the Greek magical papyri, she is named as the keeper of the keys to Tartaros, the deepest pit of the underworld. Like Hermes, she was a guide, not only for travelers on the roads, but for souls making their final journey, right, Michael? Maybe he was warning him, but I would like to think if Michael was about to cross that threshold into the afterlife, I would like to think that dog was maybe trying to guide him along.
That dog was just standing waiting for his bus ticket. Like, okay, we gotta catch this train, Michael. Let's go.
Exactly, because as Michael, that truck was coming, or as Michael's standing there and he's kind of just giving it up to fate. After he saw all those bikes were passing by him and he was kind of looking in the air, kind of just tuning out. The dog can be seen standing in the distance, kind of just watching it all go down.
Yeah.
Very, very eerie. So like Hermes, she was a guide not only for travelers on roads, but for souls making their final journey. Art often shows her walking beside Hermes, torch in hand, leading Persephone safely back from the shadowy realm. By the 5th century BCE, her name had become inseparable from ghosts. This may have come from her blending with the Thessalian goddess Enodia, whose very name means the traveler. Enodia was said to wander the earth surrounded by a host of spirits wearing a leafy crown and carrying torches. Over time, that imagery bled into Hecate's, until she too was imagined striding through the night with a retinue of ghosts, her torches blazing, and her keys rattling at her side. By the 1st century CE, Hekate had become firmly established as the goddess of witchcraft. Writers of the time paint her in shadowy colors. In Lucan's Pharsalia, the witch Erichtho calls on Hekate as the goddess that all witches revere, describing her as a, quote, rotting goddess with the pallid, decaying body, one who must wear a mask when she appears among the gods. It's grim, but it shows how deeply she had come to embody the powers of night, death, and sorcery. Her companions fit this role too. Dogs, ever at the threshold, were linked to her as guardians of the frontier between life and death. Just as Cerberus, we were saying before, right? Just as Cerberus guards the gates of Hades, Hecate's hounds were thought to prowl the boundaries of the living world and the dead. But Hekate wasn't only about death. She was also the keeper of knowledge, especially plant lore. She was said to instruct witches in the arts of medicines and poisons. In the Argonautica, Apollonius tells us that it was Hekate who taught Medea how to, quote, work in drugs. Her sacred offerings included garlic, a plant forever tied to the underworld, and cypress, the tree of mourning. Many of the plants sacred to her carried both danger and healing in their roots. Aconite, also called Hecateus, belladonna, dittany, and mandrake. We just talked about the mandrake, right?
Yeah.
The mandrake in particular has long been dug up with the aid of dogs.
It's all connected.
It's all connected! I fucking love this shit. practice that ancient writers took as proof of the plant's link to her. One tree above all was hers, the yew tree. The Greeks draped yew wreaths around the necks of black bulls before slaughtering them in her honor and burned yew branches on funeral pyres. And the very word yew, toxos in Greek, echoes through toxin or bough and toxicon, which means poison. So the tree was sacred both for weapons and for venom, perfectly fitting Hecate's dual nature as a goddess of death and power. Do you remember when I was telling you that story that I was writing for Stella Diora when we were talking about, what was it, the crows? When we were talking about the crow episode, and I was talking about the Cleona and also how it was like the alchemy and the philosopher's stone, and it was like this whole story that we had going for our music. The yew tree was where our main character, Aaron, achieved alchemy.
How about that?
Isn't
That's
that
pretty
crazy?
dope. You witch.
So, interesting how this is all tying together. So as a goddess of the moon, as we know, Hekate has long been linked to the moon. Though the connection is tangled and sometimes late to appear in the myths, she was often imagined as part of a divine trio: Luna in the sky, Diana hunting on the earth, and Hekate ruling in the underworld. And together they formed a kind of triple goddess. I'm guessing depending on whether it's Roman or what's the other one?
You're thinking of Selene and Luna. Okay.
Thank you. Yeah. Yes. So Selene, I guess, would be the Greek and Luna would be Roman. I'm not sure which is which.
Yeah, I think you're right.
But then Diana and Artemis, right, are also kind of the same, the huntress.
Yes.
And then Hekate ruling the underworld. And together they form that triple goddess, which we were talking about earlier, each reflecting a different face of feminine power. Ancient writers sometimes paired her with Helios, the sun, especially in spells and cursing magic. In the Homeric hymn to Demeter, both Helios and Hekate witness Persephone's abduction into the underworld, the sun and moon as eternal watchers of what happens on earth. Later, in the lost play by Sophocles called The Root Cutters, Helios is even described as the, quote, spear of Hekate of the roads, carried as she attends her mistress in the sky. In Seneca's Medea, the witch herself calls on Hekate as, quote, moon, or orb of the night, triple form. And by the Roman times, the identities of Selene, Diana, Luna, and Hekate had fused together so tightly that they were celebrated as one: the huntress, the moon, and the goddess of the crossroads, all bound in a single divine unity. Even Hecate's name hints at lunar ties. Sometimes she was called Perseus, daughter of Perses, a name that overlaps with Oceanid nymphs connected to Helios and Circe. Scholars have debated whether this means Hekate was always lunar at heart, or whether the connection came later, layered on as her worship spread. What's clear is that whether or not she began as a moon goddess, she was eventually embraced as one, the dark face of the moon watching from the crossroads of the night. So when you look at the triple goddess, like those two crescent moons and then the full moon in the middle, I'm guessing that would be the moon goddess, the huntress, and Hekate, right?
Yeah, it could be any of the triple themes that we've talked about. Maiden, Mother, Crone, the triple goddess here. There are other triple goddesses we've talked about, not just this cluster too, right?
And I'm gonna mute myself because I'm gonna be coughing.
Okay. Oh, sorry.
Are you okay? Yeah, I'll just pop in when I need to.
Okay. Hekate wasn't only honored. You're not muted.
Oh.
Hekate wasn't only honored in grand temples, she was also a household goddess. Families placed shrines to her at doorways to guard against restless spirits and wandering dead. These shrines were called Hekatias, often showed her in triple form: 3 faces gazing down 3 directions from a singular pillar. Some were small enough in private homes, others stood at major crossroads, enclosed in little walled courtyards. One famous example stood on the road leading to the Acropolis in Athens. Crossroads were especially sacred to her. On the nights of the new moon, offerings of food were left there for Hekate to ward off evil spirits. In some places, caves became her sanctuary too, like the one in Zinthras, where people came to seek her protection. Dogs were her constant companions in sacred sacrifices, unfortunately. They weren't just symbolic, they were actually offered to her in rites of purification. It's so weird how quiet it is on your side.
I'm sorry. I'm trying not to ruin this episode with my
just by myself.
coughing.
In Colophon, a city in Asia Minor, black female puppies were sacrificed to her as, quote, the wayside goddess. Plutarch tells us that in Boeotia, Boeotia.
Boeotia?
Boeotia.
Boeotia. Like, remember Moesha?
I do remember Moesha. And Boeotia dogs were killed during cleansing rituals. Puppies in particular were often mentioned in offerings made to her at crossroads, where she walked with spirits between the worlds. It's a reminder that Hecate's worship lived in both the everyday, guarding the family doorway, and in the uncanny, guarding the haunted places where roads meet and shadows gather. Hekate and Jimmy. Yes. Hekate is not some shadowy goddess on the edges, we've come to learn. You don't like me, you don't need to be as afraid of her as you might think. She is widely worshipped across Greece, Anatolia, with temple shrines and rites that wove her into everyday life. Her most famous sanctuary in Lagania in Caria, where her temple drew great festivals each year. Pilgrims came from all around to honor her, and eunuch priests served in her name. Other early evidences of her cult come from Sicily, Argolius, and Angita, and even the precincts of the great temple of Artemis at Ephesus were priests called Megabyzi. Okay, Megabyzi, Megabyzi, oversaw her rites. In some places, she was honored alongside Apollo, Athena, and Artemis. In others, she had her own sacred caves, like the holy Xantharian cave on the island of Samothrake.
Samothrake?
Samothrake, yes.
Samothrake.
The Fates, or whatever you said earlier.
I forgot I said that.
Where initiates sacrificed dogs in rituals meant to guard against terrors and storms. So where can you find her today? I saw this cool TikTok that I'm going to insert here of the Dirt Diaries by Dr. Ten, and she explains where to see her edifice, her carvings still to this day on her trip.
For those of you who love the triple goddess of the crossroads, who has ties to necromancy, sorcery, and more, this is for you. Especially if you've ever wanted to see a relief of said goddess in the wild. Because yes, you still can at certain sites, also known as Hekate or Hekate. And yes, we have to zoom out just a hot sec, because yes, we do have to go to the site itself, that of Ephesus. And a hop, skip, and a jump over is the famed Library of Celsus, which beautiful. But if you actually go through the portico next to the library, you will stumble upon this relief. Now, when I went to go visit, I knew I had to find her. And she's utterly beautiful. She's actually a lot bigger than I originally thought for a relief. And what's incredible here is the care and precision that went in to create this. Now we may be wondering, why was she carved on a portico wall? Well, she is the goddess of the crossroads, with ties to thresholds as well. And what is a portico or even a gate at the end of the day? Kind of a crossroad. You are moving through thresholds. So it makes sense to have a divinity associated with protection here. Especially because here she is actually depicted in the triplet, where she is facing at 3 different ways. And of course, Ephesus is in modern day Turkey. There are many sites in modern day Turkey that are actually heavily associated with this goddess, like Kalendaris. And of course, the big one, the big hitter, Lagina, which was a massive pilgrimage site to the goddess.
Hekate was also honored in Byzantium, where legend says she I sound like a smoker.
You sound like Darlene.
Darlene! Byzantium, where legend says she once saved the city from an attack by Philip II of Macedon. She lit up the night sky with her torches, warning the citizens, and for this she was worshipped as Lampidophoros, the lamp carrier, and her statue stood at the Hippodrome of Constantinople. Beyond temples, her worship lived in homes and streets. The Athenians celebrated Hecate's Dipnon every month. Dipnon. Hecate's Dipnon every month on the night of the dark moon. Families would set out a meal, bread, fish, eggs, honey, and cakes at a small shrine outside their doors, because the doorway was also at a crossroads. It was believed Hekate herself walked there, along with the restless dead. The offerings honored her and also placated the spirits in her train, who were said to, quote, long for vengeance. The Dipnon also served as purification. Households confessed their misdeeds, made expiations, and swept away spiritual pollution so that the new month could begin clean. So, like, Jimmy's, like, spiritual pollution?
They were
right?
just having a Hekate Dipnon.
These practices remind us that Hekate was not only the goddess of witches and the underworld, but also a protector of the household, a guardian at the gate, and a presence felt in the rhythm of every new moon. In 1929, Lewis Brown, an expert expert on religious cults, connected the 1920s Blackburn cult, also known as the Cult of the Great 11, with Hekate worship rituals. He noted that the cult regularly practiced dog sacrifice and had secretly buried the body of one of its, quote, queens with 7 dogs. Researcher Samuel Fort noted additional parallels to include the cult's focus on mystic and typically nocturnal rites, its female-dominated membership, the sacrifice of other animals to include horses and mules, a focus on the mystical properties of roads and portals, and an emphasis on death, healing, and resurrection. As goddess of witchcraft, Hekate has been incorporated in various systems of neo-pagan witchcraft, Wicca, and neo-paganism, in some cases associated with the wild hunt of Germanic tradition, in others as part of a reconstruction of specifically Greek polytheism, in English also known as Hellenismos. In Wicca, Hekate has, in some cases, become identified with the crone aspect of the triple goddess.
So then, do you think Diana and
Was it Artemis?
other
Oh no, Artemis and Diana were like the same thing,
same
right?
one? Yeah.
Selene was the other one, right?
Selene. Yeah, I wonder which one of those two is the maiden and which is the mother in that.
Ooh, interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm thinking Artemis would, yeah, I don't know. Didn't bother to look it up. So
You might have said in that one episode we were like talking about them.
I don't know who this is. Strimska
Skrimska? Yeah, I don't know. I never heard of that.
claims that Hekate, conflated with the figure of Diana, appears in late antiquity and in the early Middle Ages as part of an, quote, emerging legend complex known as the, quote, Society of Diana, associated with gatherings of women, the moon, and witchcraft that eventually became established in, quote, the area of northern Italy, southern Germany, and the Western Balkans. This theory of the Roman origins of many European folk traditions related to Diana or Hekate was explicitly advanced at least as early as 1807 and is reflected in the etymological claims by early modern lexicographers from the 17th to the 19th century connecting hag and or Hexe, hex with witch to the name of Hekate. Interesting. Such derivations are today proposed only by a minority. A medieval commentator has suggested a link connecting the word jinx with Hekate. The Byzantine polymath Michael Sellis speaks of the bull roarer consisting of a golden sphere decorated throughout with symbols and whirling on an oxhide thong. He adds that such an instrument is called a junx, or is that a J or an I?
It looks like an I, like inks.
Hence, jinx. Okay.
Yeah.
But as for the significance, says that it is ineffable and that the ritual is sacred to Hekate. Shakespeare mentions Hekate both before the end of the 16th century in A Midsummer Night's Dream, 1594 to 1596, and just after in Macbeth in 1605, specifically in the title character's, quote, dagger soliloquy. Quote, witchcraft celebrates pale Hekate's offerings. Shakespeare mentions Hekate also in King Lear, while disclaiming all of his paternal care for Cordelia. Have you ever read King Lear?
No, I haven't read King Lear, but I think it's an interesting parallel there, how they're talking about Shakespeare mentioning Hekate.
Yeah.
And also, we think Mighty Hekate make it right, but also the aunts in that Midnight Margarita scene, how they're reciting that
Macbeth.
witch's poem from Macbeth. So I'm thinking the witches, or the aunts, rather, I think they're either super Shakespeare fans or
They're just
or
learned ladies.
they're all about the Hekate.
Yeah.
I think it was supposed to be Hekate. If they're like all into Shakespeare and Shakespeare mentions Hekate and Macbeth and they're quoting the witch's poem from Macbeth, I
Agreed.
can almost vouch that spell, the resurrection spell that Sally and Jillian were doing, it was Hekate, and they said Hektate because they don't know what the fuck they're talking about because they're trash
agreed.
witches.
Yeah. I like what we learned at the beginning of this. Like, it could have been, yeah, they're trash witches. They weren't doing the spell right to begin with, so why would they even bother pronouncing the name right? Or, like, they didn't really want, the film crew didn't really want, you know,
Right.
to invoke this mighty goddess.
We'll never know unless we
never
talk
know.
to somebody who wrote the script. Did Stephen Alish say that was this a dream that I had, or did this happen?
There's 2 Robins.
Okay.
So there's Robin Standifer, who I think he's still married to, and Robin Swycord, who does
Okay.
script.
All right. Yeah, so he had
Popular
nothing to do
name.
with the script or his
No,
wife.
I don't think so.
Okay.
We can ask. You got
Okay.
some numbers you're willing to share?
Yeah. Anyway, all right.
Lear says, quote, "The mysteries of Hekate and the night, by all the operations of the orbs, from whom we do exist and cease to be. Here I disclaim all my paternal care." In Jason and the Argonauts myth, Medea was a sorceress and priestess of Hekate who helped Jason obtain the Golden Fleece in exchange for his promise to marry her. After Jason later abandoned Medea for a Corinthian princess, Medea, enraged, extricated a terrible revenge by murdering the princess, her father, and their own children before fleeing in a dragon-drawn chariot. Her connection to Hekate, the goddess of magic, legitimized her vengeful and immoral acts, transforming her from a victim, yes, into an active agent of destruction. And in the film, you can see this. She does this whole dance to Hekate, and when I was young, I remember watching this as a little Catholic girl, like, oh, this is bad. This is not, I'm not supposed to be watching this. This is like witchcraft, because she goes into like this trance and she goes to this Hekate statue, which is a 3-headed like lion, more like Sekhmet style.
Okay.
And she asks for like protection for Jason so he can go get this fleece.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. So without further ado, you guys, we have a very special interview today. Today on Magnolia Street Podcast, we're very honored to welcome Vincent Higginbotham. And Vincent's story is one of resilience, transformation, and magic, finding healing and empowerment through witchcraft. He's the author of How Witchcraft Saved My Life, Practical Advice for Transformative Magick, and co-author of Thrifty Witchery, Magic for the Penny-Pinching Practitioner, both published through Llewellyn. Vincent's work is grounded in the belief that vulnerability is strength, that magic is accessible to everyone, and that transformation is possible even in the darkest of times. And today we specifically wanted to talk about Hekate with him, right?
Yep.
But beyond his books and teachings, Vincent is also a devoted practitioner of Hekate, the great dark goddess, torchbearer, and guide through liminal spaces. We're thrilled to have him here today to share his insights into walking Hekate's path, what it means to serve her, and how her presence continues to shape his work and his life. So Vincent, welcome to the show.
Stop scrolling, repeat after me. I'm worthy of every dream I have. I'm worthy of every dream I have. I'm worthy of every dream I have. Don't get caught sleeping on it, though. Bye.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Are you?
It is so cool to meet you. It's just wild that TikTok just brings people together like this. It's pretty awesome.
It's kind of crazy. I feel like that's the point, right? That's social media. That's what I
Right.
think it's supposed to do.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You got to do your
Yeah.
whoa. So cool to have you.
Where are you from?
I'm in South Carolina.
What?
Where?
I'm in like the upstate.
I'm like 45 minutes south of Charlotte.
Okay. Yeah. Got you. South of Charlotte. So like my job takes me all the way up into like the Charlotte area and down into Columbia.
Oh my
And
God.
like all over. I'm in Anderson. And so it takes me like out towards like Westminster and almost the fucking Georgia line. It's just all over the place. And then Columbia and Asheville. So like I drive all over.
That's why
the
your
place.
videos are always in the car.
Yeah, it's my work truck. And I just hit record and I'm like, all right, let's sing a song. I mean, it's so much driving. And so I listen to a lot of books on tape and I sing out loud a lot. And then I ride in silence, like complete fucking silence. And I'm like, this is nice.
And your
Like,
brain
it's so
allows you to
cool.
stay silent for that amount of time. You can just kind of like detach and get in the zone of driving.
So like I live in a different world sometimes, if
Yeah.
that makes sense. I live in the world that I'm writing. I spend a lot of time in silence just thinking about how to get to point B on what I'm working on right now, and that's really fun too. I have a lot of processing time.
Right.
So lots going on in there. Sometimes it's a little scary though.
What do you do for your day job that enables you to drive so much?
We do water testing, essentially. We go to like plants and water treatment facilities and different things, and we set up these machines that pull water for 24 hours.
Okay.
And then we put it in different sample containers with different preservatives in them.
Mhm.
And we test for all kinds of shit like E. coli and hard metals and mercury, all kinds of shit. So then we transport it to a lab. We're like a satellite office. So labs are in Asheville and Columbia. So where I'm at, we just happen to have to also courier every day
Right.
our samples because some of them are like short holds. I'm
That's
always
a
like,
lot of
I'll go,
driving.
I'll drive. I love it. It's
Yeah.
so nice. I get lots of overtime. So
Nice.
When you have a work
happy.
truck too, that's nice.
Yeah, it's like not my truck, but I
Yeah.
can never be like, this is my company. So I think I do a good job of keeping that hidden. I don't know.
Well, it's awesome that you're in South Carolina. That I was not expecting,
You
but
guys
I
can
did
meet up.
find you through
Uh,
one of your singing videos, one of your TikTok videos, and I
yeah,
have been putting off. I messaged you and I said that I have been putting off wanting to talk about this specific topic just because I don't want to step on any toes. And I had reached out to people before, like other practitioners who work with the mighty goddess Hekate, and nobody came back to us. And we've had this on our schedule, like to talk about during spooky season because it's part of our practical magic fandom. And nothing
right.
was coming, nothing was coming. And I saw it on our list, and I was like, I don't know if I could do this. And then your video popped up, and I was like, no shit. No shit. So I'm very happy that you agreed to do this. And you are a
Yeah.
published author. You have some works out there I saw. Tell us, did those come to you while driving? What are you
No.
working on now?
So I do have nonfiction. I've been published twice with Llewellyn. One time I was the co-author of Thrifty Witchery. And then the other time I wrote How Witchcraft Saved My Life. It's practical advice for transformative magic. I had a totally different job at the time. Like I was working in construction when I pitched that to Llewellyn and they were like into it. So I wrote it and like I was like, I want to write a memoir, and they're like, all right, but you got to teach magic. I'm like, I can teach magic, I guess. I don't really know everything. I know, I like to call it street level learning. I just kind of picked up everything that I know as I've gone, and I've happen to have a more esoteric life. I'm not a super like well-read witch, but I understand, I think, the mechanics of magic enough that I can say, yeah, this is how it worked for me.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I love writing about witchcraft, but I'd rather delve into fiction. So right now I'm working on fiction, and it's just like my own thing. I'm not prepared to query it yet or anything, but I intend to at some point because, I want the world to keep reading my words.
I'm curious, how does putting together, I guess, like a pitch to a publisher, how does that work? Like, what's the process?
Oh my God. So in my situation so far, what I can say is that I went to a conference. I went to a witch conference, and there was a Llewellyn acquisitions editor there taking 5-minute pitches. And I sat down and I was like, this is my idea, and I don't really know where to go with it. And I can send you writing samples. And she was like, yeah, send me writing samples. And I was like, here's my writing. Here's kind of like my direction I want to go. And she was like, great, now write me a pitch. And so she like sent me a questionnaire basically that I essentially answered and helped me kind of figure out what I was writing. And I sent that, and they were like, all right, yeah, we'll do it. And then they were like, write it up. And I did. And they,
Wow. That's
and they were
awesome.
like, you have to make all these changes. So essentially I rewrote it after they told me that. And then I turned that in, and they're like, hey, these are the revisions, right? And so that you do those, and then you send that to them, and then they publish it. And that's pretty cool. But I think that with fiction, it's totally different. I understand that I need an agent. I keep my eye out for like how to query and what to query and what I'm doing, but I'm still like writing what I want to write. So I'm just like
Yeah.
focused on that right now. Right now, I spend a lot of time driving and thinking about that. And it's nice that I can do that because previously when I was writing, I had like a full-time job where I was dealing with customers all day long, and that was very stressful. And so it's hard to then like take this esoteric stance while you're also dealing with the world of like
Muggle
Muggles.
world, the
customer
Muggle world.
service.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right. Yeah,
essentially. So yeah.
exactly. Would you have to find a new publisher, or does Llewellyn do fiction too?
They don't. And so I would have to find a new publisher. And so I feel like I'm going to keep throwing spaghetti at the wall
See what's
and
Yeah.
like see
yeah.
what sticks and what doesn't and go from there. I'm just ultimately a creative person. So all I want to do is create. I feel like writing kind of makes you God because you get to create your own little like alternate
Your own
universe
world.
It
with
really
like
does.
variants and shit. Listen, the thing that I'm working on has like 5 variants. I've written this thing out at least twice to completion, and 4 other times easily to like chapter 18. And like right now I know exactly where I'm going because I made these variants because little pieces come
I
out of
like that.
them and it's able to stick in. So I don't know, I'm just creating a universe, and
That's
I
fun.
feel
Yeah.
like that is the power of
It is
creativity.
like a little
It's the
flip
magic.
switch of like,
Yeah.
I can do anything. I
Yeah.
can do anything I want to these characters, but it is
Anything.
literally all you think about. It's all you
Yeah.
think about, and like, how can I add that little plot twist? How can I connect all these little strings? So I'm there with
Yep.
you. I totally
Yep.
understand. Can I ask what you use to do your writing?
I just use like a computer. What do you mean?
Like
I
I know
type
people.
it in Word? Is
Yeah,
that
yeah,
what you
yeah. Like
mean?
Google
Like, yeah,
Docs
I
or
just use.
Scrivener or anything like that.
So I type everything in Word and I type it out. So I have like a huge outline. Like it's like
Yeah.
tens of thousands of words, right? And so I take that and I block it into how I want to lay out my chapters. And then I have this like mess when I open up a chapter because all the
Yeah.
chapters are like saved because I know where I'm going, right? I have a
Mhm.
roadmap. And I go in and it's a mess because things change as I go. Like things develop, the scenery, the
Mhm.
characters, what's happening, the emotions, escalations in like supernatural events, things like that, right? So as those things happen, the plan kind of has to adjust as well. So I have to look at this whole mess when I open up a new chapter. I go, okay, this stays, this goes, this is how that changes.
Mhm.
I had to put together a puzzle to move it forward. That's really fun. But like I just go into Word. It's all in
Okay.
Word. Like I just save it in Word. And then when it's in a good place, I put it in Google Docs because I have a friend who reads it.
Nice.
Nice.
And I
That always
give
helps.
access to like a couple people
Yeah.
and I'm like, let me know what you think. And then they're like, yeah. And a lot of people don't read them.
I feel that.
And it's fine.
Yeah.
And it's
It's fun.
fine. Like I don't even like mind because when it's done, I'll be able to push for people to read it. And that's what that Google Doc is for. But
Yeah.
otherwise, no, I just like
Okay.
I use Grammarly to make sure that I didn't use a comma where
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
or
Yeah.
like I check for like comma splices, I guess.
If you're hyper fixated, which it doesn't sound like you are, but if you ever want to be like super crazy color coordinated, emoji organized, Scrivener
Yeah.
lets you like do it by scene and you can just like drag and drop the scenes and it'll give you like a character map. It's fantastic and I wish I had it when I first started writing because it makes like multiple POVs much easier to log. But I wanted to get back to your choice to do fiction and like
Yeah.
how important that is mixed with like actual occult magic and fantasy because that's how I think a lot of us are introduced into witchcraft, into the pagan path. At least I was with practical magic. Like the
Right.
fictitious world of these women and you knew exactly what I was talking about when I messaged you in the scene where
Yep.
they misuse the name. Is that on purpose? We don't know. We wanted to talk to you
Yeah, what
about
are
it.
your thoughts about that?
So I feel like they say mighty
Hectate.
Hekate,
They say mighty
Hektate,
Hectate, make it right. Yeah.
Hektate. So I don't think that that is so. Okay, here are my thoughts on pronunciation of the name Hekate. Like, say it what's right for you. This is a name that comes down from other languages and probably not just Greece, right? I mean, she has all these roots in present day Turkey, I believe. However, you say her name, she hears you. Like, if you're talking to Hekate, I say Hekate. That's how I say it. I would
Yeah.
never tell anybody to say it their way because if they say anything close, I know what they're saying. And that's
Yeah.
all that matters because deity is not the name, it is the understanding of your connection to it, right? It's access to source. And so how you name it is how you name it. I just feel like connecting to idolatry, I guess you can call it, of an entity or a being helps people to connect to source. And so when I say Hekate and I'm like talking to my Hekate goddess statue or whatever, I'm connecting to source through my understanding of Hekate. There's probably personal gnosis in that, I'm certain, because it's a deity. Like you're building that energy, but it's like it could go off.
We want you to know that's exactly why we
Yeah.
wanted to talk to
Yeah.
somebody who felt this personal connection and like take us from the beginning. How was this like I might consider starting to work alongside her, or was this like, oh, I don't really have a choice. I'm feeling called. This is what I'm doing now.
So like my entire life, right? Like as a child had this connection to like the idea of connection to deity, to source, right? Like when I was a 8-year-old kid, I wanted two things in life, to become an author and to become a priest because I was very, very Catholic. Okay. And so like I've
Wow.
always felt connection, like the idea of God as the ultimate like vibration of the universe as I understand it now, right? Then I grow up and I'm like this gay guy in the Catholic Church and I like go through being like homeless and all kinds of shit. And throughout it all, I talk about this in my first book. Throughout it all, I'm like witches nonstop that I'm just learning and picking up from. And then there's media because we have Buffy, we have Charmed, we have like the
Yeah.
craft, we have practical magic, we have all of this great media from like the 90s and the early aughts where witchcraft was just kind of present. And so it was always there. And I always had a kind of a drive for it. And then, I don't know, I've always been on this spiritual path to understand source. I've explored ideas of Hinduism and all kinds of stuff throughout my life. And somewhere around my late 30s, my sister is like, well, you're doing witchcraft. And I was like, no,
Yeah.
I'm just, connecting. And she's like, no,
In denial.
you're like, this is literally witchcraft. And I've called myself a witch in the past. Like when I was 18 and homeless, my first tattoo was the word witch in Chinese, which I'm like ashamed of because it's so colonial of me. Like I'm just like colonizing and appropriating something else. But now it's permanent. And that just shows what you don't know at 18 compared to what
yeah.
you do at
Exactly.
44. But I have labeled myself as a witch in the past, but then I was like, no, I'm exploring real spiritualism, I guess. And then my sister's like, no, you're like casting spells. Because I was telling her about something that I did. And I really started thinking about it. I was like, yeah, I guess I am. And I always have been. And I'm like, oh, well, I'm just going to go ahead and call that into my life and go ahead and label myself and begin this journey. And so I did one night and I was like, well, I feel like I want to name source. That way I have something that I can call it essentially. And so I was like looking at deity names and I'm like, nah. And I had this idea to call out 3 names as I did this ritual one night. And the only name that I decided to call out was Hekate. And it was not planned.
Oh, wow.
I did not think about it. And I hadn't registered the name as this deity of transformation. And so I hadn't planned it. And I did it for 3 nights over like the new moon. No, it was a full moon ritual, as a matter of fact. And so I just like called in, I am a witch. And then 3 days later, my sister texted me the name Hekate, which was like really weird.
Oh, that's so weird.
Like we had a discussion after the fact that I was like, this is what I did. Because I tell my sister everything. She's a practicing witch as well. She texted me the name Hekate and I was like, oh, I'm literally going to like understand this better. And I started reading about her. And so I'd like go read blogs and stuff. And then I found books after that, long after that. I found groups of people who were like into her and I started like learning from them and they were like, this is information about her. And then I was like, well, I really like this goddess. I'm going to dedicate myself to her. So I did. I started dedicating myself once a year. I do it for a year and a day. So it always kind of like, it moves forward a little bit every year. As I understand it, Hekate is just this excellent choice for transformative connection. When I'm dedicating to continue my transformation and my growth, to have that torch shined on my path and always be like moving forward to see my goals come to fruition.
I was going to say, it sounds like she kind of like elbowed her way to the front of the line. You had these other ideas of maybe the 3 names you were going to evoke or call out to or felt connection with. And she was like,
Nope, me.
nope, me. It's me.
It does feel like that. Yeah.
As far as what I was feeling when attempting to talk about this, you know, her overarching thing is like, she's this dark goddess. She's this like darker entity. What have you felt working with her? Do you sense that coming off of her? Or do you think that's been like perpetuated and like her reputation has grown? How do you feel about her?
I mean,
darkness?
I think that, so if you really think about it, right, mythologically speaking, her father and mother were like the earth and the sky, right? And so I think that she is this liminal thing. And then she's given domain after the gods take down the Titans or whatever. She's given domain over the land, sea, and sky. And I just think that there's a lot of dichotomy inside of that space. It's mislabeled. I'm going to go mislabeled. I mean, who am I to say? It's not my place to label anything, but I think that liminality feels eerie. And that eeriness is why it's this darkness, because people are uncomfortable with that, I don't know, kind of transition sort of area where you don't really know what's about to happen. And I think that people find a lot of darkness in that. And I really think that you take it to where you take it, right? Like you take it to what's open. I don't think that where I take my interaction with the goddess has anything to do with darkness. I think that it shines light into darkness in a lot of ways. It's like that transformation. And like, yeah, I had to walk through darkness to get there, and lots of dark things happen. My world has been shook, right? But when you have an earthquake, you rebuild. And that's kind of, I think, what stops people into thinking it's just darkness. Like, I don't know. I've never really understood why she was called a dark goddess, except that she's like more often venerated on the new moon than anything. And that's a very dark time. And I don't know, people like to make women seem bad if they're powerful beautiful. And I think it's like patriarchally like handed down. I don't think that I don't put a lot of stock in it. That's what I'm trying to
Awesome.
say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's good to know that it, I think, has just been perpetuated as more of you got to know what you're getting into before
Yeah.
you call upon her, which I think you should come to any deity with. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? They all deserve that respect. If you're choosing to ask for their help, you better be sure, you know?
Here's the thing, like I think that when I am practicing, like if I'm casting a spell or something, which like let's be honest, it's not like I'm just casting magic every fucking day. I'm like, oh yeah, it's a full moon, cool. Like whatever. Like
Yeah.
I'm not out like constantly casting magic. I have magic that is constantly active, right? And so those are bigger things that I might do at a certain time and then I feed it.
Yeah.
And like that's all part of this very daily practice of me and working with the goddess, who I understand as a connection to the source of all creation. I don't even call it working with. I think it's more like I just venerate a deity. Like, yo, you're my guy. And let's do this thing, and let's do it for a year and a day. And if it starts not really vibing, always go through the time. Always go through the time. That's how I feel about it. Because like if I make this dedication, I have to like see it all the way out, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's like working or not. But if I ever feel, I haven't yet, but like if I ever feel like, oh, that year and a day is coming and we're gonna move on, I guess I would. I don't know. I think that you come to a deity with respect and not expectation.
Yeah.
Because expectation really fucks you up.
What are some ways that you connect with Hekate on a daily basis, like when you're working with her, like on the regular?
For instance, I have a whole like altar, right? And like she is on my altar, and I have specific workings that I have created that sit around her, and I feed them my energy or like my affirmations, and I discuss that with her. And then I just have like a daily talk essentially. Some of it's very like ritualistic, and some of it's very like, here we are right now. And if I'm in a hurry, it's like really short. And if I like have time, I can sit there and sit at my altar and talk. But like every day, I just like, I feed it, right? I feed it my energy, how I choose. And then I go about my day. Other times in a situation like this, like there's a candle that I light because I'm like, all right, well, now we're like discussing it. So like,
Yeah.
guide me, right? But like, I don't know, it's just different things. Like I don't really dive into my particulars of any of my magic because I believe in like it's okay to like discuss magic without saying these are the ways that I do it, because I feel like every person and have an opinion, which I don't choose to let anyone have an opinion on my magic. But then B, I think that they could either like feed it or harm it. So I'm like, but on a daily basis, my way of venerating Hekate is I speak with her. Like I like sit down and I put time aside for her. And then there's oftentimes like while I'm driving where I'm like, hey, let's have a conversation about what's going on right now.
Yeah.
You know, and I just like speak to her like a fucking best friend, I guess. Like, I mean, like I
love
curse
that.
and everything. And that's where I'm at. I feel like that's a very magical connection to deity that is no different than anybody connecting to any other deity, because it's all, in my opinion, at the end of the day, a connection to source.
Yeah. Did I see correctly on your video? Like this is 7, maybe going on 8 years of
Yeah, I believe
working
it's
with
like
her?
7 years. Yep.
That's so cool. Have you noticed that as far as you don't have to share particulars, but specific offerings or things that you've done that have been received maybe differently from her? Is she likes B better than A sometimes, or have you noticed
Yeah,
anything in particular like that?
actually, I have like a surefire offering that I give
Oh
that
yeah.
every time I've done it, it's like I get what I'm after. You know
Oh
what I
my
mean?
gosh.
Like I've identified a very specific offering that works super well. The thing is, I'm building up this connection and energy every day,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I'm building it up every month. So like every month on the new moon for 3 nights, I take scraps from my house, and instead of giving them to the dogs, I give them to the street corner. That's what my husband says. I'm feeding the corner.
I
But
love that. Ah,
like
cool.
it's like right there, and it's a little crossroads, and so I
Oh,
take
nice.
my offering over to the crossroad, whatever it is, and like raccoons or possums. I live out in the country, so
Yeah.
Yeah.
like we don't have like street lights or anything, and like there's lots of deer and different
hmm
things, and so I just leave it there, and I'm like, this is because I honor you. I don't want anything. I'm not,
I love that.
gonna call upon you for anything. I honor you. And then on the last night of the moon cycle, I am like, this is what I'm giving up into the new moon. And then on the moon, like the new moon night itself, I'm like, just honor, 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 and that's it. Like, I don't say anything either way. And then on the new moon, I'm like, this is how I'm calling in the change for this new moon. And so I just kind of like try to make it a thing for me too, without being like, hey, I need you to help me do it. This is just
Right.
like my thing that I'm going to do as an offering. And I'm going to try to like make this change as an offering to you. And we'll see where we're at. Like, I make the same promise a lot. It's like my way of saying, hey, I understand that you are a deity of transformation. And in honor of that, I'm going to continue to like transform myself and find my way through this liminal space of life. I'm only flesh for a small portion of like the time that my energy exists, right? And so I want to continuously be working on that transformation. And I feel like that's a way of offering as well. But then like, you know, the scraps are an offering. And then like when I have big magic to do, I have a very specific thing that I offer. And I mean,
It works.
Yeah.
like so far, like I'm playing the long game right now on some stuff. So we're waiting. But yeah, like I mean it works. So it definitely is there. And I feel like being able to discuss her like this also helps feed that,
Bring
you
her
know, in a
in.
way that's
Yeah.
like, hey, this is part of the offering, you know. And I think that that's like a really great way to do it.
Yeah.
I like that. Have you ever read, it's like an online comic. It's called Lore Olympus. Have you ever seen
I feel like I've seen little snippets of it.
it?
Is it
Okay.
like, I feel like Hekate is in it, right? And she's like
She is. She is
blue.
this.
Is she blue?
She
No.
is blue and she's this like
Yeah.
boss babe. And I'm like, that's how I feel. She's like chilling, right? She's like, it's okay, honey. Like,
Yeah.
let Daddy Vinny talk to you and tell you all about me. And then you can leave me offerings at the crossroads if you want. But I
Yeah.
wanted to ask, like, do you think because of, I don't know, the patriarchal bullshit we're going through right now, like she's kind of having like a resurgence? Do you feel like more people are being drawn to her right now?
So I feel like this is a question that I've come across myself for years now, right? And I think that that's something to maybe take into consideration because I don't think that it's a resurgence. I just think that we constantly are like more aware. I just think that it's building. I think it's just getting like this stronger and stronger push all the time. I think it's resurging. I just think it's consistently surging. Does that make sense?
That's cool.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, I
I
like
think that
that.
it's like if you look at the 90s, you can find her name in pop cultural things like there was a demon named Hektate, and I think the first or second season of Charmed that the
Mm.
sisters came up against at like a wedding, I want to say, right? And then like
Probably.
there's the use of her name in Practical Magic. And if you like follow it out, like you can find her used subtly and then like kind of not. And then recently she's been used several times and then kind of not. And it's just kind of like, I think it's like the ocean and the tide, and it comes in stronger each time. So it feels like this resurgence, but really it's just that growing tide that
I
like
love
I
that.
mean to put it as best I can, I just think that it's always growing because I think that we're always waking up to the idea that men suck. and, and the
Some
world
women
is
do too.
transforming.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, unfortunately.
No, I mean like obviously some men don't suck because probably I
Yeah.
don't. But like
No.
Right.
maybe I do. Who knows? I think that goddess energy is a building thing. We're up against a big god that's hard to replace, I think. And so it's
Mm.
hard to like find that right placement.
And do you
I
think
don't
it's
know.
all
I think
because
that's
we
why it
just all
changes.
want to feel protected right now because we are in such like a dire state, you know, as a country?
I feel like as a country, it's like fucking weird to be American, right?
Yeah.
And
Mm.
like I love being American. Like I've seen so much of America and it's just like such a weird place to be right now in history. And I think that typically the big gods all show up when history is happening, right?
Right.
And so I think that that is a thing. Like there are people who maybe are called to her more because like that energy needs to be built up more in order to, I don't know, essentially negate or combat or reverse some of the other nefarious energies that are also building in
Right.
not just the country but the world, right?
Right.
I
Yeah.
don't know. Does that make sense? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I don't think that it's just Hecate either, probably. I mean, like, I feel like other goddesses that like, are gaining their resurgence is like that tapping into the anti old white man with all the money kind of mentality that's growing, I think, in people who are not just women or just people of color or anything, right? Like, I think it's growing into the people that, I mean, essentially, I'm going to be an old white man one day. And I'd like to think that being against the old white man runs everything is like a good thing to be against when I'm an old white man. So,
But you'll have the
like,
colorful hair,
both.
hopefully.
Right.
I mean, we'll see. Maybe, yeah, I think so. I think
You
so.
you kept saying, you know, that she keeps showing up. I wanted to ask because, like, I've had other friends, not just listeners of the show, that say, you know, she keeps popping up in like books or social media, or they keep seeing
Hmm.
ravens, all these synchronicities. Do you think that's just confirmation bias, or is this like an actual calling? You know, how do you feel about have other people come to you this same way? And also, is your sister a Hekate devotee?
No, my
Okay.
sister is not. She doesn't work with Hecate at all. I don't know. I think that confirmation bias is so difficult, right? Because it's like, here I am in a thunderstorm and it's thundering and lightning, and I'm going to take that as a yes. Like, well, you're in a thunderstorm and it's thundering and lightning. So is it a yes? Like, maybe it is. But like, if it's a yes to you, then it's a yes. Like,
Uh-huh.
it's deity work, right? So like, if you have received confirmation bias from the world outside, take it, right? And then like work toward it and really fucking own that shit. But like, I think that in terms of it being in the media, right? Like, let's say you're, I don't know, watching a show and then they start using the name Hecate. Like, if you're watching the show and you're thinking while you're watching the show, oh, I should maybe start working with Hecate. But like, the show has been giving you clues that lead to Hecate.
Yeah, yeah.
Maybe that needs more examination, right? If you're like, hey, maybe I should start working with Hecate, like, check it out.
And then a raven shows
Check
up
it
on your
out.
porch.
Right. Like, whatever. Like, and I mean, that's a thing. Like, if then a raven shows up on your porch and you're like, this is my sign, then it's your fucking sign. Whatever. I'm not the signs master. Like, I don't get to say. So,
We
like, confirmation bias or not, like, take it.
we just did a cool episode about ravens and familiars and crows, and it's cool to like be able to pick them out now. And we did talk about Hecate a little bit. And all week I'm like, cool, crow, crow, crow. This morning I'm standing outside making the dog run around, spraying the hose, and I look up and there's one raven circling and just like floating on the you know, the humidity we have right now with the storms coming in. And I'm like, ooh, this is good timing. You got good timing. So that was kind of cool.
Right. And like, because you see that and you're like, oh, you're my sign of good timing, like, that is factual because it's factual to you and you are creating your reality. So like, that's the thing. I think that it's really important to understand about magic is that it's not actually about the like herbs and the candles and the like words or anything. Like, it all plays into it. It all helps you find your connection to it, but how you tap in is how you tap in. So like, for you, the raven today is like, yes, excellent, right? And it
Excellent.
is,
Yeah.
because whether it is a confirmation bias or like a real sign from deity, it is to you what it is to you, and this is your fucking reality, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
what you control is your reaction and response to the world around you. So like, when you're building your world and you're like, yeah, that raven is the thing, then it is the thing. And you go out and you have this like great day, or you have this good enough interview or whatever, right? Like, you know, it does its thing.
Yeah.
And I think that that is how magic actually works. I think that too often people in the vast occult community want to put restrictions on how you express your kind of manipulation of the world, and I just don't think that that's very fair.
Mm.
I don't believe in like going, oh, that looks cool, let me match this aesthetic. But like,
Hmm.
I also think that we mature as we develop into our magic, and understandings become more clear as we go.
Yeah.
I don't know.
what are some ways that Hecate has shown up, I guess, in the physical world, like in symbols, like birds, or the black dog has also been known to be like a, you know, popular symbol for her? Like, what are ways that she's shown up for
So
you?
when I first started working with Hekate, I was like, all right, I just want to know that like we're there, right? Like that this is the right step. I wasn't dedicated yet. I was like, but if you're here, here are the three things that I'm looking for. And one of them was black dog. And then my other dog ended up pregnant and she had one black dog, which
Oh
I
my
kept.
God.
And like it
Wow.
was just like the right thing. And so like that was kind of, in my opinion, a way, whether it's confirmation bias or not, that like I received that yes, like let's go
That was
kind
for
of
you.
like
Right,
moment. Right.
exactly.
For me, it was the yes, let's go moment. And so like that's been a big part of my understanding of my practice. Like oftentimes I think that when you talk to deity, it's important to remind yourself of the yes, let's go moments
Yeah.
and like repeat them back. Because if you look at prayers from like God, of course, because we're doing this, I'm not going to remember names.
That's
But like,
okay.
dude, man, who wrote about Hecate way back in the day, I hate myself for
It'll come to you later, probably.
Yeah, we'll
when we're
splice it
not
in. We'll put it in
recording
here.
the hymn to Hecate by whatever. He talks about like her saffron robes and her bullhead, I want to say, or something. Anyway, it, like when he's talking about Hecate in this hymn, which a hymn is like a prayer song. So like what he's doing is he's venerating her for all of these things that he understands her as. That's like how
Mm-hmm.
I understand it, right? And so like when I am dealing with deity in general or Hecate or whatever, right? Like that's what I'm doing, but I'm gonna do it in my way. I'm gonna be like, you gave me Nakaya, right? That's a sign, that's a symbol, like that is a connection to you that I had. Like you would like list these things, and I feel like that's a really important part of my practice when I really have to dial in. I think that is how confirmation bias it becomes part of a person's magic, and I think that that's how magic works for a person, because that can't be taught in a book. Like I could sit here and teach you this principle or idea, but like until you go out and experience it yourself with deity or whatever, you don't get that connection. So it's like I think that it is something that grows in you as you work with something. There are other moments where like I've found dead things and I'm like, oh, I think this skull is for me, and I bring it home and I like
Right. She's
clean
like
Like
it
a
up.
cat
Snakeskin.
bringing you the dead things.
I like animal skulls, or like my
Mm-hmm.
son will bring me something and I'll be like, that's not for me. Like I'll know it's not, but
Oh,
I'll like keep it because it's like a dead thing and I like dead things.
Yeah,
it's
like
a
But
a gift.
gift.
like I'll, yeah, I'm like other times my son will bring me something and I'm like, oh yeah, this is for me. And I'll like I just connect to it. And so those things become part of my magic too. And like in a way, some of those things I connect to them because I feel the Hecate connection. It'll be like, I
Mm-hmm.
don't know, a snake bone or something,
Mm-hmm.
or just different things. I feel like it has built over time. 7 years has collected a lot of
Oh,
bones.
yeah. Yeah,
Right.
I'm sure. Does your kiddo have questions about what you do, who you talk to, any of that yet?
So I have two sons. One is 23 and the other one is going to be 14 in October. He knows I have an altar and they both know that I call myself a witch, but like he's really into God, like Jesus and stuff. And
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, cool. Like be that. Connect how you want to connect. And like I can talk to him about the Bible. Like, it's fine. Like the Bible has a lot of like really good answers and lessons that when you look at the big picture of it, they're there to be taught. And so when he starts showing an interest in something, I'm like, well, here's the lesson. And here's how I can apply this lesson
Mm-hmm.
that you're not quite picking up to the thing that you're into. Because like I understand the Bible. Like I think that understanding spiritual connection to source in general requires you understanding at least a base understanding of all of it, right? Like
Yeah.
let's
Definitely.
understand all the religions in some way so
Yes.
that you can at least like make your own path. I'm not going to push my beliefs on him. I'm going to use his beliefs to help teach him. I think that that's what a true spiritual teacher does, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that the pastor spitting out at strangers on the street are doing anything. I
Right.
think the pastor in the church being like, this is how we treat our neighbor the right way is doing the work, whether
Yeah.
it's like something I agree with or not, whether they agree with my life. I think that the pastor spitting out the word of God, actual God, would not be telling people to dislike any of my life choices, but that's beside the point. I'm just saying, like, I don't think that there's ever a need to proselytize. Like, it's okay to be like, this is who I am and this is my thing because it worked, right? Like, I made a video because the song was about Hektate and I liked it, and I like to lip sync videos, and it blew up because Hektate, and the song is like pretty cool, and you found me, and that's great.
That's how we found you.
And I'm able to like talk about Hektate on that platform because it's like a platform that's going to draw people who are into Hektate, right? So I'm not out like proselytizing or being like, come to Hekate. I'm just like, no, this is my offering to social media for Hektate. And that's it. That's what I did. And it did a thing. Like, that's cool. But like, I don't think that I need to teach my son about it. If he asked questions, I would tell him. He knows that I have cards in like basically this whole corner of my room that he doesn't touch anything in, and he doesn't do it. And that's fine. We're good. I mean, he thinks I'm crazy, I'm sure, because listen, my son and my husband are like super country. Like, we live out in the country, and I'm like the black sheep. I am not the vibe.
No, when you said kids, you don't seem old enough to have grown up kids. So I was like, the kiddos, do they have questions still? But no, they're grown adults. Almost.
I'm 44, so like I'm old enough to.
You are old enough. And the other thing I was going to say is, for a witchy podcast, Justina and I talk about the Bible a lot on this show somehow. We really try to cover all the theology and religions that, the history of every single topic we talk about. So it is there. It's just what man has twisted it into is the problem.
Exactly.
Right. Listen, it takes a lot of work and understanding and diving in and questioning everything to like really, I think, get to the bottom line of it. But I think that that's kind of the point of the journey in general. I think constantly questioning what's going on, or how does this work, or why is it like this and not this? Like, I don't think that you can ask that without looking at the Bible any more than you can ask that without looking at like Hindu religions or Buddhism or anything, right? Like understanding the broad spectrum of it all, I think, helps so much, and like, I mean, just Abrahamic religions in general are this huge thing in the world that like influences morality and politics and everything. So like, to be blind to any of that, I think it's tone deaf. I think it's tone deaf to be blind to any of that and to not be able to like make the connections that then help you make your point.
Yeah.
I think that that's important too.
You mentioned earlier the hymn that, spoke about Hekate, and then you brought up your TikTok video. Justina had a question about your music.
Yeah. So that song "Mother" that you used in your TikTok video by Florence and the Machine. What was it about that song that drew you to Hekate's energy? What made you correlate that song with Hekate?
So I think that like Hekate as this mother kind of vibe makes a lot of sense, because for me, I feel absent of a mother often in my life. I don't think that you can be an 18-year-old kid and say, yeah, I got a good mother, right? And be homeless and spend like a decade homeless with that kind of going on. So like, maybe I have mom issues, or maybe I just really understand this kind of connection that Florence is making to the world as her mother. That I think is more the connection to the goddess. And for me, I have mom issues that I can't really fix, but like understanding the bigger picture of goddess and the land I live on and the world I live in and transformation and understanding love despite not feeling it or whatever. These are all key aspects of that song. And they're key aspects of my connection to the goddess Hekate. I'm just constantly trying to work on all the things and connecting to the universe around me as like a mother figure makes sense, because I want it to nurture me. I don't want it to like
shade you.
Dude, I'm just like super anti-patriarchy in general. Like, listen, both my parents I'm not fond of, but like I talk to my mom. I won't even speak to my father. And that's just like my general vibe. And so when I connect to anything spiritual, it's always going to be that like divine feminine. I don't really connect to the divine masculine very well at all. I don't know. I mean, like I explore that all the time, but like typically it's just about the divine feminine. I think that mother, the term mother, the idea of mother, any artists out there using mother, when we call them mother, I think that it's like almost an egregore. And I think that that can be embodied by just about any goddess. whether they are not a mother or like are known for being a mother and having fertility or whatever,
Yeah.
because it's all about how you understand that kind of mother essence, I guess. Does that make sense? Am I
Sure.
answering your question?
Yeah,
I
how
don't
they show
know.
up to you in your personal
Yeah.
journey and how they guide you. Just being a mother figure is a guide. She's guiding you and protecting you and
Yeah.
loving you. Boom.
Yeah.
You know? So, yeah, even the virginal goddesses, feel like can show up that way for people.
Here's the thing, like, I am not female. I have not given birth to my children, right? But both of my children, like, I'm the mom, okay? And how that works is like, so their father and their mother had them like regular, normal, and then they like separated. And then I met my husband and we started. And Carter, my oldest, was like 2.5 when I met them, right? And my oldest now was 12 when I met them. Best friends with their mother, and I really like when they were at our house visiting, I took on the more like mother roles, like, let's go do this, we got to go to the shop, whatever, right? But then their mother passed away a couple years ago. And so like Jackson moved out. He's like on his own. He lives with his girlfriend. He's my oldest. But then my youngest is like, it's me, my husband, and my youngest. And like all of those mother duties, all of those mother things kind of like fell on me and I thrive in it. And so I don't think that you have to be necessarily like female, or people might hate me for saying this, but I don't think you have to be necessarily female to take on this like essence of mother. And I don't think that you have to be like having given birth to take on the essence of mother. I think that there are stepmothers who love their children. I think that there are like stepfathers like me who take on that mother role. My husband is all dude. He's dad all day, but like if y'all are married and you have kids, you know that you're busy making the magic at Christmas and you're not getting any of that fucking magic, right? Like they've got full stockings, I do not. And that's okay. That's
the mom
essence
makes the
of
magic.
mother.
Yeah.
Right. And so I feel like when you think about deities that maybe have never been a mother, it doesn't mean that they don't have that mother energy. And you're right, the mom makes the magic. And in my life, Hekate makes the magic. So she's mom.
Yeah, me and Christina have both been nannies, like we never have our own kids, and like we know the mom role, right? We know to step into that role, even though we've never given birth ourselves. It's an instinct that you're just
right.
With it or you're not.
It's the same thing. There's a mom kind of like vibe, and I think that when you embody it, you embody it. And I think that as a deity, Hekate does and can and often, for me, embodies it. I think that's why I would use the Florence song for that.
Yeah, you do a lot of music on your TikTok channel. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
What other musicians and songs pull you toward Hekate?
So very specifically, there's not somebody that I'm like, oh, like I'm feeling Hekate, let me listen to this. But like I have a lot of draw to a lot of different music. And in that music, I often will like hear a clip and I'm like, oh, like it could be Radiohead, and it could be like the Yeah Yeah Yeahs, or it could be like Depeche Mode, or it could be some like underground artist. There's just sometimes there's a line and I'm like, oh, like it's like I have a moment where I connect, but I don't seek out music that I'm like, oh, this is Hekate. Like I'll hear things and I'll think Hekate. And that's kind of like when I'm making my videos, I just like, I'm like, I want to do this song. And I don't really think what I'm going to say or if I'm going to say anything on them. I just am like, I want to do this song because it's fun and I'm staying awake while I'm driving. Like that's it, right?
Trying to stay awake.
That's the motivation. I promised myself. So like part of my practice that I can like share with you is that like I promised to spend this year making transformative changes that help feed me. And something that feeds me is social media attention. Like it makes me feel good when people like my shit. And that's great. I think that it's like a cool thing to like feel good about. And I don't have to like boast about it or anything. I'm just like, hey, yeah, they like me. Like they see me, whatever. I just want to scream into the void and hopefully be heard. And so I was like, I'm going to post once a day, every day for a year and a day. I made this choice on my birthday. And so I started doing it and I was like, well, I don't want it to be like a job. I don't want it to feel hard. So I was like, how do I do it? And I've like experimented with some things, and the singing, it just fucking like it ties in really easy. And so like, doing it and I'm like, oh, I want to do Florence this week, and I'll just do like days of Florence. I mean, I go find the clip and like understand the portion that I really need to nail, because I am singing out loud in my truck. Like I am losing my voice because I sound horrible and like I don't know how to sing, but I am like doing it right. And then I like, cut my voice out and the sound out and put the song on with
Yeah.
TikTok. And so
But
I
you're
find
singing with
that
your whole ass heart.
my whole ass.
His whole
Yeah.
chest. His whole ass and
I
chest.
mean, listen, I put my chest into everything I do. I don't
That's
care if I like it
important.
or not. Like, I
Right.
think that, like, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to put my whole chest in it.
Right.
Like,
That's right.
period. Right. And so, like, I do. Then I'll, like, look at my recordings and I'm like, oh, I have these. Like, I'll, like, do 30 and, like, 12 days and like have enough to like go for a minute, and then I'll like do more if I want for a little while, or I'll like read a book or whatever. So then when I'm like ready to post, I'm like, oh, I have this Florence song, and then I'll like vibe with whatever I feel that day that I'm getting from that song when I'm watching myself on my phone, and I'm like, this is what I want to say. Sometimes I have nothing to say. Recently I've had nothing to say. I'm just like, I'm really focused on my book. Like I took a little vacation from work and I'm just focused on my book, and so I'm like, here's just some good music, listen, watch me lip sync. Some days I have a really great message that I get out of having recorded it. I don't know. I just like let source speak when it speaks, and I put little messages on. And so like that day, obviously Hekate was like, well, go ahead and give this message too. Talker. And like, so I do. And like, I just follow it. When I first came to TikTok, I was like, I'm going to push the whole witch talk thing because I'm publishing witchcraft books and I had to market myself. Nobody markets you. You have to market yourself. And so I was like attempting to do that. And then my kid's mom died. And I was like, nope, I don't have time for that. And I spent years like readjusting and grieving, and I'm still like in mourning sometimes. And I use Hektate for that. And I just keep moving forward. And so now I'm like, just coming back to social media and doing my thing. And sometimes that thing involves Hektate, and sometimes it just involves me like rocking out to Radiohead.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well,
Radiohead.
the witch talk. So, has there ever been anything on your FYP that you've come across about Hekate that you've been like, where are they getting their information? Like, that's wrong. It doesn't sound like you'll like go
No,
in
I
the
feel
comments
like
being like, what the hell? But have you seen things like that that make you just wish people would educate themselves a little more?
I feel like what I see come across my FYP is a lot of the same.
Yeah.
And like
Regurgitated
that,
information.
right, exactly. And so I'm never really like, well, that's not right or that's not wrong. I just kind of like skip it.
Yeah.
Because there are moments where randomly Hekate will start coming across my feed a lot, and I'm like, oh, okay, like why is that happening right now? Because it doesn't happen all the time. But like I skip a large portion of that because it is constantly like regurgitated, and I am appreciative of all creators and everything that they're doing, but like I scroll for information on Hektate. Like I go and like seek out source information on Hektate because like that's a special interest of mine, right? And also I don't ever want to like put some kind of negative energy behind somebody's attempt at educating the world on Hektate because that's what they're doing and that's fine. Like go ahead. I'm not going to feed it personally because that's just not where I'm at in my practice. I'm here for it. Have at it. Like I don't judge it. I think that lots of bad information is constantly out there, and if you're really called to it, you'll find the right information and the good information and the information that works right for you.
Did you ever see yourself writing a book specifically to working with Hekate?
I've thought about it. The thing is that in order to write a book specifically on working with Hektate or venerating Hektate, is that you have to do a lot of like historic research, and there is that research is out there and available, and like I have books that I could pull from in doing that, but I don't want to teach witches the magic. I want to bring it to the masses in a fun, entertaining way.
Right.
I
Does
think
that make
that's what you're doing.
sense?
Yeah.
I don't want to regurgitate information to people who already know it, right? I
Yeah.
want to be like, hey, like stranger, check out this cool thing I did. Hekate. Like, you know what I mean? Like just like give her a call out in the book I'm writing. The book I'm writing right now, like definitely involves the goddess Hekate at a point. And so like that's a thing that I think I can bring Hektate to the world while entertaining them with like pure fiction and open the doorway without being like, hey, come do this. It's the only right way. And like, these are all the ways that you do it. Like, I just want to open the door for you. I want to like be the like town caller, like, hey, it's 8 o'clock. Like, do whatever you do at 8 o'clock, right? Like, whatever.
The door's
like,
open.
Yeah.
Right, right. Like, here you go. Lights on. Come on over if you want. Like,
Exactly.
whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, like, I think that that's kind of what I'm doing when I post on social media or when I'm like, involving her in a book I'm writing. And so I don't think that writing a book about her is a goal that I want to take on. People have, like, my friend Courtney Weber wrote a great book about Hekate. Sorry, I never say her name right because it's a harder name, but Sarita de Estes, I'm sure I'm saying it wrong. She's wrote an excellent academic book on the goddess Hekate, and it's called Circle for Hekate. It's excellent. It's got so much information, and people are like, oh, the Strophilos, and she goes into like why people are like, oh, the Strophilos, right? And so it's really good information to have. And Sarah Johnson something, I'm horrible at remembering names, evidently, for an interview, but these are all like really good people who have like put in that work that it's like really great to like go and be able to look at.
If you think of them after the fact, please
Let
send
us
them to
know,
us because
yeah.
we do like
Yeah.
our show
I mean,
notes
like,
and our links for our listeners so they can always go through and check out these sources too.
I can literally grab them. They're on my bookshelf right across the
Go
room if
for
you
it.
want them
Okay,
to.
yeah.
Like, oh, yeah.
Yeah, we're
Give me 1 second.
Yeah.
we're casual. We're
Keep it
casual. Casual. He knew what my next question was going to be, and that was like, hey, what are some good books for people interested? So, boom.
So these are the three that I just mentioned, but then also like Jason Miller is an author who does write about Hekate, and Hekate, Goddess of the Witches by Courtney Weber. Courtney's really great at making it and accessible when talking about magic, and she really is just this very down-to-earth human. I love Courtney. She's excellent.
Okay.
And then there's Circle for Hekate, and it's by Sarita de Este. I don't know how to say that last name, and I mess it up, and I'm sure it's like D apostrophe EST,
Okay. Estes.
and it's Sarita, Sorita. But like this book is just, it's very academic, and it gives you all of this information about like if you want to know information on like historical and like mythological information on Hekate and where it comes from, this is the book to check out. And then Sarah Iles Johnston was the other author that I was talking about, and she wrote Hekate Sotera, and I feel like this was like her thesis or something.
Wow.
When she first wrote it, I don't know. It's got a lot of information, and they like dive into different things about Hekate. So I feel like having that access to information like that is really important. But then again, like I still build my own practice out of what I understand out of that. Right.
Those are
Because
great.
it doesn't always all apply. I think that it's important to dive in and try to like find it and understand.
Definitely.
What's your favorite fiction book?
Ooh.
Oh, that's so unfair.
Too many. No.
Like,
If you could do like
gosh.
top handful.
Okay, like
Since you're
so
writing a
listen,
fiction book and we're a podcast about fiction series, and I think it's a
yeah,
good place
so
to
gosh, that's so loaded. All right, so my favorite fiction book of all time is Invisible Monsters by Chuck Palahniuk. Like, just period, end of statement. Best book I've ever read. Like, I don't even care what anyone thinks about it. Like, it is my favorite book. But like I really love so many things. I read this book called Swan Song. It was written in the 80s, I want to say, but it was like just brilliant. It's about like an apocalypse, and it's just like hopeful, but oh man, it's just a great book. And like love V.E. Schwab's Invisible Life of Addie LaRue.
Yeah.
I'm obsessed like with her as a human, V.E. Schwab, like obsessed. I can't wait to one day be like, what's up, buddy? And like not be weird or awkward because I talked to her, because that's a life goal. I don't know. I like so many things. It's so hard. Like Anne Rice, Memnoch the Devil is like one of my favorite books of all time. Like I've read all of the Practical Magic books, or like I don't know, what do they call the cluster of them? Like what do they call the
I
series?
guess the Practical Magic series, right? Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. It's cool to see people like, because once you started talking about books, you just like got like energized and excited, and I love seeing that.
Yeah.
And we know that like the books, as far as like the Practical Magic series, aren't for everybody, and Justina and I have our own opinions about the series.
Yeah.
We start a whole damn podcast about it, but like
clearly
as far as how they evolved, not super
You
fans
know
of.
what? I think that Practical Magic was the worst one. I've read all of them, right? So like I personally feel like Practical Magic in the series was like the worst one. It was nothing like the movie though. And I feel like then when she wrote the next three books, like she really took on the vibe of the movie.
Yeah.
And like made it right. I feel like those three books are just so great. Like I love it. I love that we get to dive into like their ancestors' past, but like the ants' past, like is so fucking like it's the ants are where it's at. And like
Yeah.
I really
I
like
agree.
their uncle. Like I just like I dig it all. And like I'm interested to see what they're about to do with Practical Magic, this one, because they have to obviously do the fourth book, right? It has to be.
Yeah.
Because then they can go back and do the other two with different actors. Like right now, they have it timed perfect, but like, you know, those ants aren't young.
Yeah.
And neither are the sisters. Like, I don't know. I'm excited to see the sequel. Like,
Me too.
I don't think either actresses, I don't think any of them would like sign on if it weren't worth it. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, we've
the
had a
whole
lot of
cast is
opinions.
stacked.
Yeah, going off of just
Yeah.
what they had with like the first book, to see the potential in it, because it really is like kind of a cluster of a story. Like it's not as like linear as probably the other ones
Yeah.
are, and there's not as like cool connections, and we don't get the Halloween finale, whatever. So to see
No.
that potential and then be able to transform it into like the movie we got, I'm so happy
Yeah.
they did that, because the book is okay. It's
Yeah.
okay, but
Yeah.
it brings a
Yeah.
lot
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
us like witchy fiction readers into that world. Like, holy shit, this is actually what witchcraft is those little tiny synchronicities and those
The
signs and
thing
the connection of family and ancestry. That's what I think people like.
I think the thing that I really loved about Practical Magic and what I really appreciated, the book, not the movie, right? When I read it, I was like, oh shit. I had just started like really diving into my own kind of like exploration of witchcraft. I was not calling myself a witch yet, but like the things that were happening were not like shooting lasers out your butthole and like you know, levitating and shit. The things happening in the book were like the flowers that grew, or like, you know,
The little
knowing
things.
that, yeah, like it felt like real magic.
Right.
Yeah, for sure.
And I feel like then the movie, it's all like that supernatural magic, which is fine because that's cinematic and that's kind of the point that of what people want to see. And so I've always loved the idea of being able to write witches or write magic as it is in the real world without needing to like sensationalize it. And I think that like that's one of my goals as an author at some point, is to like break the rule and like give you all of the witchiness that you want without that being what the supernatural is even about or whatever. You know what I mean? I just feel like you can write really well, a whole story on magic really well, without overemphasizing the like levitating and like spirits walking out of your
The
brother,
David
your
Blaine
sister's
aspect.
body.
Yeah.
And yeah, like I think that it can be done. And I think that that's what she proved with that book, is that it can be done. And then it got adapted into film, which like did what it did. But then I think that she saw, oh, but this is really great. I feel like she probably liked their vision and was like, let's expand on that, you know, because the next three books really do. It was the first thing I thought, is that that book did not match the movie.
Right.
Not at all.
Good as a book, did not match the movie at all. And then when I read the next books, I was like, well, this is more like the movie, but like none of it happened in the movie. And I was just like hooked then. I was like, all right, we're in. Like,
Nice.
let's learn all about all of it. I love that, you know, silver tarnishes and just all of these little like touches that you're like, yeah, that
Oh, I can
works.
believe
Like,
that.
yeah, like it's just enough, right? Like suspension of disbelief is hard. So I feel like being eased into it is really important.
When you were
And
writing your books, were you already working with Hekate, or were you still finding that path?
no, so listen, like I was 8 years old when I decided that I wanted to be an author, and I have pursued that my entire life. I've just always had journals or like made people listen to bad poetry or whatever, right? I've had friends who've been like, you're horrible at that. You're never gonna be an
Oh,
author.
what?
And I'm like cool with it, whatever. Like haters make me
Haters
thrive. Are
gonna
you kidding
hate.
me? Like, listen, no, like please hate, because I'm gonna
It gives you
show
fuel,
you.
right?
Yeah, I'm like, fuck you.
Use the
I'm the
fire.
I'll show
We did a
you
whole
guy,
mega roast
right?
episode
Like,
because we got one bad comment.
Yeah, we
were
got a-
like,
oh
oh,
my
we're
God.
gonna take this and run with it. We're gonna
We
roast
did.
ourselves.
We got one hater and it became a
Crazy.
whole episode.
That's
So
crazy.
you just have to fuel your fire. I like
I
that.
mean, you got to do what you got to do, right? Yeah, I've just always been an author. Well, no, I've always been a writer, right?
Mhm.
And so then I like came into Hekate, and like being into Hekate and whatnot led me to going to a conference, and going to that conference is where I pitched my book. But like, I didn't know that they were taking 5-minute pitches when I decided to go to the conference. I was going
Oh
to the
my God.
conference to meet somebody who I had learned a good deal about Hekate from, right? And so I was like, I want to go meet this person. And the conference was in Atlanta, so it was like super easy. It was Mystic South. If your listeners are into going to witch conferences, they
Yeah.
should go to this conference next year because it's a good conference. Lots of great speakers.
Are you going?
I mean, like, I don't know yet. Like, I didn't go last year. I'm really trying to write a book. Like, I really just want to like write my book. I haven't been like very social with any of my like other writer friends either because I'm just very like I hyperfixate, and so that's what I'm hyperfixated on is like finishing my book. So I don't know where I'm going to be at.
So
because
it's in
like
Atlanta.
summertime. So it's in Atlanta. It's over the summer. Normally, I want to say it's like June or July. I don't remember.
Okay.
They had it this year. I didn't go. I have gone other times. When I went the first time, they were doing 5-minute pitches with Llewellyn. But like, I didn't know that when I decided to go. And then I found out they were doing it. I was like, oh, I'm going to fucking pitch. And like, I had been working with Hekate, and Hekate is kind of the reason behind all of it. It's my fucking debut book, and it's official. Like, it's traditionally published. I got paid to write a book. And
That's
I'm
amazing.
like, this is the path I wanted to take. And so like, I often conflate working with Hekate and the success that I am having in terms of my creative endeavors, getting where I want to get because I've been working with Hekate. Because I don't know, like, I believe that that's some of it, obviously.
Yeah. Has she ever led you anywhere that you didn't expect or challenge you in ways that were a little uncomfortable, but ultimately necessary?
Never thought that I would write witchcraft books. So like, I guess that's a place that she led me. Like, I always thought I'd write fiction or memoir, right? And then like, I wrote something that was like way outside of my wheelhouse. So like, I didn't see that coming, but it changed my life, and not in like a monetary way, but I can write a book. First off, a lot of people go into the world and they're like, I want to write a book, and then they never do. And that's like a whole thing. And I feel for them because I struggled with that for like years. I was 40 when my first book came out, like 39, something like that. So like, I understand that feeling of never being able to get there, and then pulling it off and knowing that you can just makes it easier to do like the next one and the next one. It's life changing because I know I can write this fiction and I can sell it and I can do what I came to do because I've done it already twice. I know the steps and I can move it forward. Right.
Yeah.
And so like, I did not expect her to lead me to writing about witchcraft, but definitely it opened a door. It opened a pathway that I didn't expect something like that to open.
Yeah, how soon
Sorry?
after your first book did you write Thrifty Witchery? That's the second one that you wrote?
I feel like Thrifty Witchery, it was started maybe 6 to 8 months after I started talking about it with my friend who co-wrote it with me, Martha. And she was like, she brought it up. She was like, you should really consider writing a book about this. And I was like, well, maybe you should write it with me.
Oh.
And then she was like, I don't know. And I was like, all right, well, we can circle back around. And I gave her time. And then, I was like, well, I think I do want to write this. And I was like, are we going to do it?
Yeah.
She was like, all right, let's try. And so we wrote like sample chapters to see if we could work together.
Yeah.
And we did. And then we sent that to my acquisitions editor because part of the contract is like, if I write something else, they'll look at it. Right.
Okay.
And so like, that really helps.
It's pretty nice.
Yeah, I mean, like, it helps. So I didn't get an advance or anything from any of my books. Like, I just wrote them and turned them in, and I get like whatever royalties come in until they're like out of publication or whatever, which means like if it's out there in the world, they already got their money for it, right? So like right now, both books I believe are out of publication, but you could go to Amazon and buy both books right now. I wouldn't get paid for it. I don't even care. I've already been paid for it. Whoever bought it from Llewellyn paid already, right? So like that's how it works. But like it's out there still, and it's a rarity now because it's out of publication. So having it now, and then when I'm the biggest name in horror fiction, people are gonna be like, I have his first witchcraft book.
That's right.
With tons of money.
Yeah.
Like that's a thing. So I'm going to call that into existence right fucking now.
Yeah, manifest that shit.
Like, I feel like the book came out 2 years after the first one, or like 18 months, maybe. It was somewhere around there. I don't really remember. It's all kind of a time fuck because, like, I started writing How Witchcraft Saved My Life before the pandemic, like long before.
Right.
And then I feel like it released during the pandemic, like in 2020. It was like on the horizon when I turned it in several months before it published. And then the pandemic had just kind of gotten underway when it published. So, like, it takes a long time. The idea of Thrifty Witchery was conceived pretty soon after How Witchcraft Saved My Life came out, but I don't remember how far between the publication dates actually are.
Yeah, I was just wondering if you got like bit by that publishing bug and you're just like inspired to write the next one. But it's cool to find out that your friend actually came to you with that idea and that was like a whole collaborative process.
The reason it came up when she came to me with the idea is because I was like exploring ideas. Like, I explored the idea of writing a book about Hekate. And then the publisher was like, yes, but, right? And I'm like, okay, let's look at the but. And it was like, you have to go more into the history. And I didn't feel prepared to do that. And then I was like talking about that with my friend who is excellent. And she was like, well, what about this? And that's how it like kind of came to be. So, like, bitten by the bug, absolutely. But like after the second nonfiction, I'm like, I really just don't like writing nonfiction. I love to research for my books, right? Like right now, I have all of these windows opened up on my computer of like Charleston, because that's like a place where my book takes place, right? I have Google Street View up so I can walk down certain streets and like be there. And then like another part of it takes place really close to where I live. So I get to go drive through that and like find it and like connect to my story source. And that's great research. And then understanding like the mechanics of things is really fun to look into and understand. But like when you're writing nonfiction, you really have to be able to like cite your source and ensure that your source is really great. Whereas with fiction, you can like do the research to the point where you can keep your creative story moving forward. Yeah. And that's just more fun for me because I want to keep you like centered in the real world. But this is my world. I don't want to like follow anybody else's rules or facts if I don't have to, you know? And so for me, writing fiction is much more fun.
Yeah. And you want to do it that feels natural too, because that just like takes the fun out of it when you're trying to do something that doesn't call to you, you know?
Right. But I mean, like the goal is to publish. I want to like continue my traditional publishing journey. Yeah. And that's where I'm at right now. And so like in the meantime, I'm just like, well, let's fill up time and let's like help people pay attention to me by showing them, hey, like if I'm going to write horror fiction about witches, the world is going to want to know that I know what I'm talking about. I can tie these things in. Like I'm literally tying things that I understand about witchcraft into the book. And so it's easy to like teach these lessons or have an allegory that's painted under something else that's like the picture of witchcraft, right? Because like really I'm writing an allegory with all of the fiction, all of the storytelling. And that storytelling feels real because of how I think I've integrated my understanding of witchcraft into it too, to give it mechanics that work. And so I feel like it's all part of the creative process.
Tell me more about your How Witchcraft Saved My Life, because that sounds like a lot of shadow work and something that might have taken a little more energy. Not that it doesn't take energy at all, but like deeper, like digging really deep as far as your fiction is concerned. That to me seems like more fun, like to be able to create and use, you know, these different characters.
In terms of How Witchcraft Saved My Life, when I came to them about it, I was like, look, I've been dabbling in witchcraft forever, and I don't think anyone ever talks about how it applies to the real world or their life, right? Yeah. Like it's always like, oh, I did this spell, here's this cord cutting, what do you think? Or whatever, right? Nobody's ever like, well, I was in this situation and I did this and this is the outcome. And so like originally I was like, I just want to tell that story because I've got a lot of that in like a memoir kind of way. And they were like, okay, yeah, but we need you to be able to teach some things. And I'm like, okay, cool. Well, these are the principles that I understand. And then I started like diving into how those principles relate to different points in my life. So I give this moment of my life and then I use that story to kind of apply a whole principle. For instance, like when I learned about clairvoyance for the first time, it was from watching this movie called The Butcher's Wife. And I love that movie. Yes, it's such a good movie, right?
I was telling you about that movie.
Demi Moore is great in it. Yeah, Demi Moore does not look good with blonde hair though.
Yeah, like, not a vibe, but cute movie nonetheless.
But she was great. Yeah, it was cute. Yeah. So like I remember seeing it in the movie theater as a kid.
Oh my God.
And I was like, who is Claire? And my sister's like, what? And I'm like, who is Claire? They kept
Why is she voyant?
Claire somebody. Yeah, like they were like, she's Claire. And I was like, she's somebody else.
Oh
I
my
couldn't
God,
understand
funny.
because I was young. And my sister like laughed at me. And then my father explained it to me. And I was like, oh. And so this is a story that I relate in my book.
Yeah.
Right. And then I dive into the Claire senses
Okay.
and
Yeah.
what they all are and how they work. Right. So that's just like one way how I came into this understanding. And this is
Mhm.
now what I understand about it after all my life of like wanting to
Wondering what
understand
that is.
more.
Yeah. Well, how do the clairs
Right.
show up for you? Because I know
Yeah.
everybody experiences them differently, some simultaneously, but how do they show up for you?
Yeah, so largely I'm very Claire cognizant. I just like
Okay. Just
randomly
know
know shit.
things.
And it's like not ever things that are really helpful, but it's just like I just know things. And I've had to learn how to tell the difference between the knowing and the internal dialogue. And
Mhm.
I like it's really fun now because like I'm like, oh no, I spiraled on that thought. That's definitely not the knowing. Like it's like I'm learning how to like understand it better. But I also receive like clairaudiently,
Mhm.
specifically from listening to music. Like
Right.
I constantly have a shuffle going. I like dynamic. I have a super dynamic music taste. Everything from like Taylor Swift to Tool and Nine Inch Nails and like everything in between. Like
Mhm.
I love the pop girlies right now, and I love so much old music, and like
Mhm.
I just listen to a bunch of stuff, right? And then my claircognizance like feeds it in some kind of way. Like I understand it as message, and it happens
Yeah.
or it doesn't. But like I'm constantly learning how to decipher between is that me or is that source,
So
and I think that
fascinating.
that's
We were
something that
just talking
we
about that.
do
Yeah.
forever. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's something that we do forever. I think that it's constantly like you are constantly going to be like, well, is this me or is it source? Like
Right.
and that's a fun game to play because like sometimes you're wrong.
Yeah.
And that's okay. It's okay
Mhm.
to be wrong.
And like
I
you can
wish
call
that,
Yeah.
yourself a witch or not, but like everybody, no matter if you call yourself a witch or not, everybody has those abilities that they just maybe haven't tapped into yet, you know?
yeah, I wish there
Agreed.
was a word for the clair specifically with music. You know
Mm.
what I mean? Because there is
Hmm.
clair audience where you can
Yeah,
get
there's
it
clear audience.
whenever, but to get message through music, it just happens so frequently. I think it needs its own name.
I think that
I
could be
think that
considered
like
clairaudience to some degree. No?
Yeah, but it's
I think yeah, but I think that clairaudience is a big term because some people are like, no, I hear it in my internal dialogue or I
Yeah.
hear like a voice, which I mean like be careful if you're hearing voices, obviously. Like let's
right.
put that disclaimer on. But like people experience it in all sorts of ways. So I don't know. I think that if you're looking at clairs on a big picture though, you're like, okay, there's the five senses. That's
Hmm.
basically what they're connected to, and then knowing. And so, do we actually have more than five senses? Maybe. I mean, like, but I'm hearing the song. So maybe that is clairaudience.
Uh-huh.
And maybe it's like some kind of amalgam of clairaudience and clairsentience and claircognizance, right? Because
Yeah.
am I not feeling something when I'm listening to the song as well?
Right.
And doesn't it take all three to kind of make that clair connection? And
Yeah.
maybe that's just all it is. It all boils down to like tears
Yeah.
in a way. And so, like, I think that when it comes to that, what you're doing is somebody termed it. It's like when you're like trying to listen for a message in music, and it's like a type of divination, and it's like shuffle divination. And I don't remember
Mm-hmm.
audio Clancy or something like that. And like,
Bibliomancy.
Oh yeah.
yeah, like
Yeah.
it's like you
Yeah.
looking into the future
Gloriomancy.
divinating, right? And so like I think that when you're talking about having a term for listening for the message, that would fall under the divination more than it would fall under the
Mm.
clair, right? Because I think that your
Oh yeah.
divination is working because your clairs are informing it.
Mm.
Does that make
Cool.
sense?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Like tears. And
Audiomancy.
of
I like
course,
that.
I'm just like some random dude who's like
We
throwing words
love
out on a
talking about this
podcast. So
stuff. Really,
maybe I
we
don't know anything. Like, you know, it's all a mystery.
It
it
is
is
all a mystery.
all
That's why it's so
connected
much
and nothing
fun.
matters.
Yeah.
Right. That's our motto here on Magnolia Street.
Yeah. That makes perfect sense.
It's life, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Just to ask if there are other practitioners that are like, oh, I want to work with Hekate. What's like a respectful way? It sounds like just maybe offering her something at the crossroads
Yeah.
is a good way to
Yeah. I
start.
mean, like, if somebody came to me and they were like, I want to work with Hekate, I hate when people are like, I don't know if she's calling to me. Like, I couldn't tell you if she is. Like, that's not
Mm.
my place, right? So
Yeah.
like I always feel like kind of like put out because I'm like, "Oh, I don't know. I'm not her spokesperson. I would take what I say next with a grain of salt as well, because again, I'm not her spokesperson. But I feel like what I did when I started wanting to work with Hekate is I like gave an offering and I was like, I honor you. I acknowledge that you exist and I am interested in knowing you. And here you go. The consistency of doing that, I was like, okay, if we're vibing, let me know. I don't want to waste my time. Like, if you aren't interested in me, like, that's fine.
Yeah.
I can move on, but tell me, let me know. And then interest was showed as I understood it. And so it's just a evolving relationship, just like with a friend. If I wanted to make friends at work, I would give an offering. And it might not be like the bones of a chicken. It might
I
be
bought you a
something that's
coffee.
like, yeah, or like, hey, check out this pen or this sticker, like whatever.
These are really
right?
nice
Like,
pens. You're going to want these.
right.
Yeah.
Or like I just helped them load their truck, right? Like it's
Yeah.
an offering of service. Service is offering too.
Yeah.
It's just like making a friend at work. Like you make offerings and if they're receptive, the relationship grows. I think that that's kind of where we get stuck. I think a lot of people get stuck in being like, oh, but it's like this God. Well, like there's a lot of God.
Yeah,
Right.
I
There's a
think it's
lot of that.
overcomplicated. I really like how you put it.
Yeah.
It's like it doesn't have
It's
to
just
be
so
as daunting
simple.
as it sounds.
Yeah.
Do you think there's maybe the stigma surrounding it because you said you came from like a Catholic upbringing, right? Do you think
Yeah.
because in that faith we're taught to fear God, do you think that's why
too.
so many of us are afraid to approach certain
Yeah.
deities and we have this
Yeah.
fear
I think that
instilled
that's
in
a
us?
really smart question, actually,
Yeah.
because that's true. We do. There is this random idea that's placed in us by patriarchy
Right.
and specifically Christianity that's like
Like
fear
we're not
God.
worthy.
Yeah.
Right. Like the God of Abraham tells you that you should have no other God before it and believe in only it and have no idols and blah, blah, blah. And so, like, that God feels that way. Cool. But, like, have you ever once read anything where Hekate said, don't have any other gods before me? No. In fact, she was a fucking titan, according to her story, who went and helped the other gods. So, like, she's not walking around jealous and angry. And that's something that you got to take into account. Like, if you want to work with Yahweh or the God of Abraham or whatever, then you need to follow that God's deal. And according to the lore, that God is into you only loving it and only like, hold on, hush, buddy.
Aw.
Sorry.
Where are you?
I'm in my, like, he's like, he knows too. He
Come
just hears
in.
me getting excited. Then they're gonna lick my face and crawl all over me and mess up my damage. They're tiny.
Aw.
I'm gonna let them in. They're gonna
Yeah,
make a
yeah,
mess.
yeah.
Hold on.
Oh my God, they're so cute.
You know, they're so ridiculous. Is what
There's
they
three
are.
of them.
I mean, yeah, they're
Oh
my
my
little
God.
guys.
Oh my gosh. I love
How
They're
cute.
the little guys. All right, you got your attention.
And the
Get down.
interview's done. We just want to see
Yeah.
the dogs.
They're like, well, all we wanted was the dogs, dude. That's it.
So you don't think that Hekate is a deity that's to be feared or put off working with because of that misnomer?
So, no, I don't think that any god is a god worth fearing, if I'm being honest
Okay.
with you, because there's so many of them. This is where my house gets struck by lightning. No, like, I think that, like, if you're smart, you don't have to tell people how smart you are. And so a god that needs to be feared doesn't need to tell his followers to fear him. Having that instilled, whether it was like actually the God of Abraham who said this and it's like a fact, or it's man telling you that, that's not a God I want anything to do with, because I'm not going to fear deity and my connection to the source, because that's my connection to like everything that makes my soul. Personally, I wouldn't seek out any God who is wrathful in that way. And no, I don't think that Hekate is, but I really don't think most gods are. You don't read a lot of Hindu information and learn that like Ganesh is some kind of bad guy. Like some of them have had fucked up stories, and even in Greek mythology and probably other mythologies, I don't know all the mythologies, but like I don't think that they're all worth fearing. I don't think probably any of them are, especially the ones that tell you that you should fear them.
Right.
But no, like I think that deity is either going to be like yes or no, period. It's going to be it.
The puppies
Just
have
that-
infiltrated the interview. That's so cute.
Yeah.
I'm
I
so sorry.
really like that connection that you made, just because,
Yeah.
growing up as Catholics, you're learned to like, you can't even directly pray. You have to ask the saints, you have to ask Mary.
Yep.
You don't even have a direct link to your source. And growing up, it's always like, oh, please can I please have some help? Like, don't make direct eye contact. And I think, yeah, that could carry over into maybe even why I was feeling this way about talking about her. Like, I don't mean to bother you, I'm sorry, which is ridiculous when you're
Yeah.
like, I think that makes us even afraid to ask for help in our everyday lives with people we love and,
True.
trust and
Well,
our
here's
parents.
here's the thing, right? So, like, the Catholic Church was built by kings, people who wanted power and they wanted subservience and they wanted control. In building the Catholic Church, they instilled the fear of God because that was like kind of how they could keep you in control.
Right.
And so, when you, I think, explore the idea of how that exploded out from Catholic Church into like Protestants and everything, there's probably a lot to the idea that all of the God of Abraham kind of following is like this control, control, control. But then if you start exploring other deities, you find that you have control or having an interest in you for this reason or whatever. And I just think that like the fact that they want to control how you connect to source or deity tells a lot because what you need to be a priest in order to like talk to God or speak
Right.
for God. That's so strange that that's the case because can't I just talk to deity? And yes, I can. And deity can work through me and with me and I can connect. And they want to keep us from that because that's how they control. That's how they keep us weak. When we can ascend Jesus or whatever, we then have the power too. And the thing that they want to hold over our heads isn't as important anymore. And so they want to like keep us from understanding how to connect because you
Absolutely.
don't actually need all the other bullshit.
Christina,
Absolutely.
that makes me think of that story that you were telling me about how you just wanted to pray to the Virgin Mary because she was like the mother and she made you feel safe. And the nun was like, no, 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 you can't pray to her. And I'm like,
Exactly.
why?
Yeah. Yeah,
Why?
that was the thing that like set me off with Catholicism because you feel safe with mother and I felt
Yes.
safe going to her and somebody said you can't do that. And I said, well, that's bullshit. So bye. Yeah.
Goodbye.
We want to let you have the rest of your afternoon. But the last question we have on here is if you could distill your relationship with Hekate into a single torchlit lesson, what would it be?
Transformation is always possible and always happening.
It's
Yeah,
like a constant
always
process.
be changing,
Yeah.
essentially.
Like the tide.
I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're static, you're not doing anything, are
Right.
you?
No personal growth, right? Yeah.
Right.
I
So, all about it.
like that.
Where can our listeners find you? What should they look for? Tell us the names of your books again, your handles,
Oh,
whatever you'd like.
my books are How Witchcraft Saved My Life and Thrifty Witchery. My name is Vincent Higginbotham. If you search Vincent Higginbotham, it comes up. But like, I'm on TikTok. I think my name is like Vinny and it's like a unicorn and a pride flag right now and maybe like a writing hand. But Vincent Higginbotham or Vinny Higginbotham, Vini. Mostly I post on TikTok right now, but I am on like Instagram and everything too. Pretty much if you search Vini or Vincent Higginbotham, you're gonna come across me. I have a website. It's vincenthigginbotham.com. That has links to everything. So you can go there if you're really
cool.
We have a little intro we're going to do for you, but we've noticed after 3 years of doing this, when we have an interview, we kind of just jump right into just talking.
Yeah.
So we didn't want to interrupt. So we'll make sure to say all of your stuff at the beginning as well. But
no worries.
this is so fantastic. I really have like 100 more questions, but I want to read your both books, but the Thrifty Witchery, because I think a lot of us, we call ourselves, Justine and I call ourselves trash witches or hit or miss witches because like you just got to work with what you got. So that one, yeah, for sure sounds
and
really
white
cool.
trash witchcraft. That's what I like to term it as. Because I just work with what I got, and Thrifty Witchery is very much about that. But it's also about how you actually connect to the stuff that allows you to do it, right? So it's like intuition, wisdom, and intention is like why the bottle cap works over a stone, quartz or whatever. So it's just kind of like, Thrifty Witchery. I love it. Like both books, I love. Yeah, you can get them. What are you going on? See, this is what happens when I let the dogs in. So it's a good thing we're done.
Oh, they want to be part of it.
I mean, yeah, they're crazy. I had so much fun. Thank you for having me.
Yeah,
I really
thanks for coming
appreciate
on.
it.
We appreciate you taking the time to talk with us today.
No way. Like, seriously, like, literally because of a TikTok video, you're like, come and do this. And I'm like, I love doing podcasts. Like, I do it all the time. It's just cool. Like, this has never happened to me. Like, normally people are like, oh, you have a book coming out. Let's do a podcast. Like, nobody ever been like, you had a cool TikTok video. Let's do a podcast.
Well, you can count on 2 Virgo risings to see it through and make sure it happens, right?
That's right.
Rock and roll, yeah.
Gemini and Sagittarius. What's your sign? We didn't ask.
So I'm a triple fire. So I'm an Aries sun, and then I'm a Sagittarius
Getting
moon
shit done.
and rising.
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
There
Like,
you go. Yeah, I'm a
that's
SAG
why I'm
club.
like, I know where I'm heading. Like, it's
Right.
cool. Like, I got this.
Yeah.
It's all for
All
an end goal,
action.
and I'm gonna hit it.
Love
Yep.
it.
Yeah.
Cool.
I feel like it's very Taylor Swift of me too to like have
Oh yeah,
Sagittarius
she's a SAG
in
too.
my first three. Because yeah, her sun sign is a Sag, but like
Yep.
I
Yeah.
don't know what the rest of her houses are.
Are you excited for her new
I'm
album
like
in like
stalker. Oh
2
my
days,
god, are you
3
kidding
days?
me? I'm like dying. I'm like,
I
can
know.
we just have like a sneak peek? Like,
I know, like
I'm
nothing.
also I'm
Track
really
list, but
excited for not even like, I mean, hardly like we don't know that that's true. Like, she's so
it could be
sneaky, and I
code
just love it.
names.
I
I know.
mean,
She's so
I love
sneaky.
it because
She
it's
is.
fun, and it's so fun to watch like other people try to decode it, and I'm just like, leave the girl alone. Like,
Just let it be what
let
it
her
is.
do
Let
what
it
she's
wash
doing.
over you when
But
it's
she
supposed
loves
to.
it.
Right.
Right. She loves it though. And I think that's why she does it. So like whatever, have
Yeah.
at it. But like, yeah, I'm super excited. I'm also super excited about Florence's new album on Halloween. Cannot wait.
She has I didn't know she had a new one coming out. I have to check that out.
Oh my
Check that out
God.
too.
Yeah. Florence and the Machine has put out 2 tracks from it already. And
Nice.
it comes out on Halloween this year.
Oh,
So
nice.
super
Ooh.
excited about that
Ooh.
too. Like,
Yeah.
I love new
Lots of good new
music.
music coming
If you
out.
need a good,
Yeah.
like, spooky Halloween anthem, we have a song called All Hallows Eve. We make practical magic inspired music.
Mhm.
And
Oh,
it
do
just gets
you?
you in the freaking fall
Feel.
feels. Yeah, we'll
Yeah.
send you, it's on Spotify under the Stina. It's called All Hallows Eve.
Yeah.
And it's just
I
so
do.
whimsical and very autumnal.
Very
It'll get you in the
90s
spirit.
chick rock.
Yeah, very 90s rock.
Well, also or no?
Yeah, it
Yeah.
should be on Apple. Yep.
Oh yeah, I'll check it out. Like, send me info. I'll
Yeah, we'll
definitely
send
check
you
it out.
links.
I love listening to like independent music too. Like, I
Nice.
love indie artists. Like, I'm all about it.
Yeah.
Obviously, I think that artists should be supporting artists like always,
Agreed.
So like,
Absolutely. Yeah.
We
all
found that
right.
along the way.
Well, yeah, I think that that's like a thing. Like, if as long as you're an artist supporting an artist, you get that support back, and then it helps you grow too.
Right.
And like, everybody should be just
There's
like
room for everyone.
helping each other. Yeah.
There is.
Yeah. I mean, there's no room at the end, but like, why not make the manger comfy? Like, fuck. Like, if I'm gonna be sleeping in here with you, I might as well be your friend. Shit.
Right. Play
Like,
nice in the sandbox together, right?
right. Exactly. Exactly.
It's a camaraderie.
Yeah.
Vinny, thank
Yeah.
you so much.
Yeah.
Bye,
No
puppet
problem.
dolls.
All right.
Have a good
All right.
rest of
Have
your
a great
day.
day.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Bye.
Bye.
These puppet dogs are so cute.
I know.
But to know it's not that serious.
That's what I didn't want to say anything. I've never felt like put off or scared or threatened by a deity, but I don't want to tell anybody else how to feel. So
Yeah. No, I appreciate that because
glad you had that realization though, because I'm like,
Because-
it shouldn't be that serious.
I did that offering last year.
Oh,
Remember
yeah, you
when I
did
went
that
to
in
the
the
woods at
woods.
the crossroads?
Yeah.
So I have tried to do things, but it was still like I was still very tentative because like I don't really want a tower moment before like the building up.
Like
But
the
you
Moldavite.
have to have it.
Working with the
have to
Moldavite.
have-
I was recently listening back to some of our older episodes, and I was listening to the hair episode, and you were talking about how when you were, I don't remember where you were or what you were doing, but you were doing some kind of hair ritual in like and it was like a devotion to Hekate.
Oh yeah. I forgot
And you were
about
talking
that.
about Hekate, and I was like, what is she talking about? She's worked with her before.
Okay, I remember that now, but it wasn't like by choice. It was
Okay.
we were at like a group setting. It was the women's circle, and this woman there was channeling Hekate, and we got to walk through the gardens and meet her in this like tent where we got to pull a tarot card, and you could say, here's what I'm offering, and then they would give you a tarot card. So at the time I had the really long hair and it just felt like I needed a change, so I was like, I'm gonna offer her my hair. So then
you had
I
a
got
Sally
the
moment.
up. Yeah, I had a Sally moment. Exactly. I want to do it again. I think I'm gonna sit on it for a year.
That was really cool.
gonna
Do you
drop it off.
remember what tarot card you pulled?
I got the mummy.
The
Yes, I bring it out
mummy.
every is it transformation, rebirth.
What deck were you using?
It was gifted to me. This woman, I'll find it.
That's so
She just had her own deck and she was pulling cards and we got to keep the card.
Okay. So the mummy, what about that card made you be like, you should cut your hair?
I think it just said transformation on the bottom.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I
Yeah.
like that. Really cool.
So,
it was
I've
well,
worked with
like
her.
we were just saying with Vinny. It's cool how she shows up in different ways for people, right? Like
Maybe she's been trying to like call me up and I've just been like what's it called?
and you're like, bitch, I'm scared of you. I don't want to talk.
Yeah.
Quick.
Sorry, I'm not home right now. I'm walking in the spider webs. I leave
Christine's
a
walking in the
message
spider
and I
webs.
call you back.
Yeah.
Hecate's like, what?
And she's like, I just want to connect with you, bitch. Why do you keep hanging up on me?
Exactly. Yeah, that
So
could
you
be.
feel more called or connected or less
I feel
afraid
better.
to work with her now? Like more
Yeah,
relaxed?
I do feel better. I think I feel more comfortable if I ever choose to like do specific deity work. It will be okay if I choose her because she's already been like the door's open.
And like Vince said, if you're giving her offerings and you're not expecting anything in return from her, I think you're building like a more of a rapport, more of like that connection with her, not just when you need something,
Right.
but like on the regular anyway, like on the daily, you find your ways to connect with her, give her little offerings, even when you don't need something.
Yeah. What
It's
about you?
important.
What do you feel? How did you feel about it?
I thought it was a really eye-opening conversation because obviously like everybody deity shows up different for everybody. So it was interesting to see how one of the deities that many people revere as very dark and unapproachable,
Yeah.
and seeing how Vin is so like whatever about it,
Yeah.
it was comforting.
It is. Yeah, his take on it was what I needed
He
for
made it
sure.
so like down to earth and casual and not scary. And
Yes.
I think it's important to approach your practice that way because this is not an Abrahamic religion, right? It's a very fluid, like whatever your path is, like that's what your practice is. Like you're not
Mhm.
abiding by scripture or like, yeah,
Dogma.
you're learning from different philosophies and paths and different practices and like you take what resonates with you.
Mhm.
And if it scares you, then maybe not go down that path but maybe when you're ready, because like this scared you for a long time, but maybe if now you feel ready, now maybe is the time.
Right.
Now
Right,
is the
right,
time,
right.
now is the hour.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It was very casual and I liked how comfortable it was.
Oh yeah, I do too. I do too.
We hope you guys enjoyed that very awesome interview with Vincent Higginbotham. I hope you guys get to check out his books. I want to
Yep.
check out that Thrifty Witchery book because
Same.
I'm a thrifty girl.
Same girl. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let me know if you do.
I definitely will. So now we're going to get into some more information about Hekate. So it may seem ironic that during times of great turmoil, there's a great deal of soothing succor to be found in images of and traditions surrounding the dark goddess Hekate. Hekate, long venerated in Central Asian and Greek lore as the goddess of sorcery, has been name-dropped everywhere from Shakespeare's Macbeth to most recently Dua Lipa in her latest video, Levitating. More on this in a little bit, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Perhaps seeing Hecate's symbol in Levitating, called the Hecatean Wheel or Strophalos, made your heart skip a beat. Its sinuous lines both new and yet oddly familiar. Perhaps you watched The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina on Netflix, and the show's invocation to Hekate made your skin tingle as if you were dunked in the Arctic Ocean. Even if you're not officially a witch, Hekate is a powerful and potentially accessible symbol of liminal power. Many try to gatekeep Hekate, but she sidesteps the human ego, a dancer who slides up close to any and all who are leaning to face their shadows. Maybe that's why we're so intimidated to work with her, because so many people do gatekeep her and like try to use her as this intimidation to like some kind of like I don't know.
Just like the higher echelon of magic working. Yeah.
Exactly, like this unattainable magical doorway into, one's practice. So
It could also be like, though, you said all those who are learning to face their shadows, because like a lot of people, like myself, you're afraid to see your shadow self, and she's just holding that mirror up for you. Maybe that's what the scariness is there.
could be very well. So yes. So quote, how do I know if it is truly Hekate calling me? This perhaps is the most popular question that I'm asked, says Cindy Brennan, who writes the popular Hekate blog, Keeping Her Keys. She also says, there was a series of synchronicities that led you to this particular moment. If speaking her name yields a soul stirring, that is more than enough to truly know. So she says, I prioritize personal agency, so I don't need a, quote, sign from Hekate or any external force. But if you feel you need a sign, then consider that you are reading this article instead of doing 1,000 other things, right? There's that synchronicity. So she says, my interest in Hekate started started a little over 2 years ago as an intellectual interest in this goddess with the large reputation. I'm actually an atheist who fell into witchcraft after a whimsical sigil netted me $500 within 3 hours. That's a quick turnaround time.
Yo,
right?
Good for her.
She says, I didn't think Hekate would be a long-term thing. Even now, I don't concern myself with such boring questions like, is Hekate real? A movie isn't real, and yet it can completely shift your paradigm, change the course of your life. And that is very true.
Look at us.
Right. It's practical magic is why we're all right here, right? She says, like all great spiritual truths, Hekate is a unique and personal experience. And yet, even when she dances at the fringes of my life, her fragrance still fills my room. Her hand, her touch, has steered my life with a deftness that I never anticipated. In my previous article on Hekate on Pop Dust, I asked 4 teachers about the origins of this venerable goddess. Now I asked them, how does a newbie work with Hekate during their first month? So, learn Hekate's ancient roots in order to know how to approach her with respect. This following advice is from Jason Miller, one of this author's personal teachers. His 7-month e-course, Sorcery of Hekate, is a pioneer in the world of modern Hekatean transmissions. I'm pretty darn sure that my 5 months living in Bali was thanks to the magic I learned from this course.
Wow.
And after 5 years and over 900 students, his remains one of the most popular occult courses online. Okay, so until you have some clue about her history, we recommend you stay away from modern teachings on her, mine included. Hekate is an intensely complex figure that, even in the ancient world, meant different things to different people. Start with the theogony and hymn to Demeter. Then start looking at her appearance in the Greek magical papyri and curse tablets. This will present the darker Hekate that is associated with witches. Keep reading anything related to her that dates between 700 BC all the way through the 2nd century AD, where she is transformed yet again from a goddess of sorcery to a supreme transcendent cosmic force. Once you have done this, you will be armed enough into the growing crowd of people interested in her and her practices. You can easily swat away those who insist she is a crone or only a goddess of darkness. Okay, so she must be the crone in the triple goddess. Armed with research, you will be able to evaluate modern revelations. And that makes sense because if she's like this, like really, if she's associated with like the high priestess of the tarot, like that motherly figure, she's like attained like ultimate spirituality. She's at the top of her game.
Yeah. She's past those steps.
Right. So it makes sense that if she was the crone. He says, when I started my Sorcery of Hekate class, it was the only course dedicated to Hekate I could find. Now there are several, he says, and most of them are quite good, but all have different expressions. And this is as it should be. Invest your time and money wisely, and you will have a solid foundation upon which to build a lifetime of practice. So the dark moon is when we give Hekate her monthly supper, also called Dipnon. The following advice is from Jeff Cullen, whose Hecatean book, Liber Chthoniah, a contemporary witchcraft and devotional tradition of Hekate, was funded within 24 hours on Kickstarter. Even though Kickstarter has ended, the book is still available for pre-order. The new moon is that time when the moon reaches her darkest, her watchful luminescence veiled in shadow. This is why rites of purification and protection are so important. We call to Hekate, moon of the underworld, to drive away the malicious entities that pour forth from the darkness and to ward off the restlessness and the wandering dead. These rituals are done every new moon, or rather in 3 days that lead up to and include the return of the moon's visible horns. For the ritual itself, you will need an image of Hekate, or a statue, stone, or even a framed picture that has been consecrated as a living idol with incense of frankincense, myrrh, benzoin, and a splash of sweet red wine or pomegranate juice. Consecrate just means that you pass the item through the incense, the smoke, and you sprinkle it with a little bit of the juice. That's just blessing it, right? And the second thing you need is a black, red, or white candle, or you can use all 3. The author here says, I always suggest all 3 because they are her sacred colors. Black symbolizes Erebos, the black earth of the underworld. White symbolizes chaos, the white air of the physical world. And red symbolizes Aether, the fiery Aether of the celestial world, which is interesting because we just did our spirit episode, right?
That's
and talked all about Aether. And we also talked a little bit about that on our Magus episode too, right? The quintessence.
Yeah, it's all
Quintessence. Third, you need offerings such as sweet red wine or pomegranate juice, spring water, milk, honey, eggs, raw and still in their shells, or cheesecake topped with fruit and candles like a birthday cake.
Ooh, I would
I
be
like
drawn to
this.
that.
I love any kind of ritual involving cheesecake.
Yes,
Please, yes. So set up an altar with the image and the candles, continuing to burn the incense mentioned above. Gesture your right hand toward the idol with your palm up, your left hand gesturing toward the ground, palm up, a signal that you are evoking the powers of the underworld, and recite a prayer such as Orphic Hymn Number 1, excerpt from the hymn to Musaeus, a personal adaptation based on the hymns of Orpheus, translated by Thomas Taylor in 1792. So it goes like this. Hear me, Hekate of the crossroads where three roads meet. Lovely one, revered on earth, in the sea, and in the sky. Sepulchral, dressed in saffron veil, pleased with dark ghosts that wander through the shade. Perseus, fond of deserted places. Hail, holder of the keys of the cosmos. In stags rejoicing, huntress, night-wandering goddess. Your chariot is drawn by bulls, unconquerable queen, leader, nymph, nurse. You who haunt the mountains. It's like that Stevie Nicks song, Lady from the Mountain. Is she talking about Hekate?
It's a good song.
Is she talking about Hekate in that song, you think? So the rest of this goes, you who haunt the mountains, attend our hallowed rituals, be forever favorable to your mystic herdsmen, and rejoice in our gift of incense. So repeat
Are you
that.
not talking about, what song are you talking about? Because all I have in my head is that Mountain Women.
No,
living in the
that
canyon.
song, it's on her album, Trouble in Shangri-La.
Okay, I gotta check it out.
Oh, wait. Is it Sorcerer? Lady from the mountain.
Oh, yeah.
Wait, what song is that? Is that Sorcerer? I can't remember that song.
It'll come to you.
Yeah. Anyway, so interesting that I wonder if she's talking about Hekate there. So repeat this 3 times, this hymn. Then once you're done repeating that, take the offerings off the altar and lead a procession to the nearest Y or T-shaped crossroads where you will dispose of the offerings. The liquids, and if you know any of the liquids that you used here, should be poured directly onto the ground, and the food offerings can be left at the intersection or in a paper bag hidden in the wayside. As you leave the crossroads, do not turn back. What happens if you do?
Do so bad.
What happens
Why
if you turn
though?
back?
Why is it just a 3-way crossroad? Like, does it not work if it's like a
2-way?
4-way? Yeah,
like a fork in the road?
like a crisscross.
Yeah.
You know? I don't know.
Yeah, interesting. I'm not sure. I guess
Okay.
I don't know. Does this not work? Does this not work if you only use like a 2-way crossroads? Fork in the road?
I think she'll come because of the cheesecake.
Yeah. I would come because of the cheesecake.
Yeah, girl.
Hey, girl. All right, Hekate, girl after our own heart. Bring
That's right.
the cheesecake. Bring the cheesecake. Just don't turn back, because then
Don't turn back.
then go fuck yourself.
Yeah.
So when you return home, you can prepare a special dinner, have a party with friends, and cast spells, perform egg cleansings, or do divination. For 3 days, research Hekate, attend her shrine or altar, and tidy up your home and your sacred spaces.
I like that. The following is advice from Cindy Brennan, and this is utilize art and plants to connect more deeply and viscerally to Hekate. So, as well as her popular Hekatean blog, Keeping Our Keys, where she gives advice about both experienced and newbie Hekatean devotees, Cindy also offers several classes online on witchcraft, including Awakening the Mystii, Mystai, a course on Hecatean magic. So she says, I recommend studying how artists and musicians are portraying her. Hekate awakens the soul, and creativity is always the result of the soul speaking. For example, Chelsea Wolfe's song, The Mother Road, is deeply evocative of Hekate. If you begin to listen to Hekate, who is truly the voice of your soul saying that you must listen to your own darkness. Ooh, I like that. It is natural to feel confused, enthusiastic, and even overwhelmed. You may also feel angry, sad, or elated. All these emotions bubble up to the surface because they have been repressed for so long. Sit with all of these feelings. Ask yourself why you are experiencing these things. Perhaps journal about them. Try to avoid being frenzied because that can lead to upset. One of her lessons is to hold the tension of opposites. Be still, and she will be there in the quiet darkness, waiting to give you the keys of magic, medicine, and mystery. Go deeper into Hecate's witchcraft through establishing a daily sacred practice of connection, perhaps simply talking to her and listening. Meditation will create the space in your busy, clever mind for her to come through. Plant spirit witchcraft is absolutely the best route to connect with Hekate. Is that why I was making a moon arch? Is that supposed to be Hecate's grove?
Maybe you were being called to like work, that's like she's manifesting these things through you.
Yeah, she's like, put some cake out there.
Give her some cheesecake, stat.
So begin with one plant sacred to her, such as mugwort, lavender, or rose. Place a dish of it in your sacred space and connect with its energy. You can also offer these to Hekate as a sign of your gratitude and affection.
Quick question. Do you want a mugwort wand?
Yeah.
Heather, she said she has tons of mugwort. She's making some mugwort wands right now.
Yes,
She's gonna send me
please.
some.
That would be
I'll send you
wonderful.
one.
Thank you.
Here's how to develop an authentic relationship with Hekate. So this following advice is from Jack Grail. His Hail Hekate Walking the Forked Path online course is a stunning way to learn the Papyri Graciae Magicae, traditional Western occult magic as practiced by Greco-Egyptian sorcerers around the time of Christ. Learning this ancient technology has been pivotal in deepening her modern practice, she says. So here are 3 simple steps. Number 1, make an offering. Spirit relationships, like human ones, are reciprocal, which means you have to give to get, right? So give something like light a candle to Hekate or burn some incense to her, set out seasonal fruits or flowers, place them before an image or symbol that you associate with her, but keep it simple. But bonus points for making it nice and bonus points for the cheesecake, okay?
Right.
Bring her cheesecake and she'll be fine. And make a habit of it so that it becomes a regular event, not just a one-time thing, right?
Yes.
Maybe that's why Sally and Jillian's resurrection spell went so awry, because like Hecate's probably like, these bitches only are coming to me because they want something. When have they ever worshipped me before? You know?
Yes, you cannot bury your shadow selves.
Right.
I'm gonna put this right in your faces.
That's right. And then that shadow just manifested with Jimmy's darkness and just
Exactly.
like at his spirit just haunting them, you know? So number 2, talk to her. No one likes the silent treatment, right? Forget wishful thinking and channeling your quote intent. Say her name 3 times because triplicity equals sacred, and then speak from the heart. Introduce yourself. Tell her that you want to come into a relation with her and what you hope to get out of it and what you're willing to give. Be honest and open. There's no reason to pretend to be someone you're not, and you don't got to be scared because she's not Bloody Mary, right? Because that's another 3-named word that I'm just like, you know, that shit growing up, that traumatized me. Maybe that's another reason why I'm like, I don't want to say
Beetlejuice.
Yeah. Beetlejuice. Yeah. Like, I don't want to say someone's name 3 times. Like, that's kind of scary. Like, with all the lore surrounding that shit growing up, you know? So maybe that's another like reason why maybe people are put off like working with her.
What am I invoking?
Right, exactly. And then number 3, notice what happens next. Keep a sharp lookout for coincidences, synchronicities, and signs that Hekate is favoring you. These signs could be her traditional hallmarks, like the barking of a dog, or the image of the crescent moon, or maybe even like seeing a dog like a black dog cross your path. Or it might be something entirely personal to you, like a phrase of a conversation that you overhear at a crowded bar, or a song that plays on the radio while you're driving home. Give it time. Eventually, the very process of looking for sacred signs in everyday life will enchant your everyday life and fill it with sacredness and meaning. And then Jack also recommends 2 additional books, Making Magic by Brianna Saucy, Saussy, and Circle for Hekate by Sorita de Este. And I think we've talked about that book. Was that one of the ones that Vincent was telling us about?
Yes.
That name sounded very familiar.
I'm just realizing, so we had Tom and Clyde over here for dinner this past weekend. And as a thank you, they gave me a little gift baggie for taking care of their property while they're in the mountains. They gave me one of those bracelets that like tracks like a wild animal. And it's a wolf. So now I'm like tracking like a red wolf, and like wolves are connected to dogs kind of, so that's kind of cool. So I get this little bracelet and I get to check on my dog every day. He's roaming around.
What?
Yeah.
Wait, how does that work?
Well, I think it updates weekly, so it shows his like progression of where he's moved to, but it's
Is he
a red
microchipped?
wolf. Yeah, he has a collar on.
Okay, who's collaring these wolves though? Or these
Well, they're endangered. So
Okay.
let me see what other animals they have on here. You can do giraffes, manatees, koalas, sharks, dolphins, a shit ton of animals. So he's just kind of hanging out in a field right now.
He's doing zigzags 2 weeks straight.
Back and forth.
Back and forth.
And they give you like updates about him and
Look at
like,
that.
when he's spotted and shit like that.
That's so
He's
cool.
cute. He kind of looks like Diggity a little bit.
Do you ever see him on your property?
Oh, no, no, no. This is like South Carolina coastline.
Okay.
So anyway, but now I had a little bracelet with a dog on it. Maybe I should be wearing that more.
So yeah, Hecate's not only the dogs, like it's canines in general, right? So that's also very interesting.
That is pretty cool. Okay, yeah, this
So-
will do like elephants, cheetahs, gorillas, lions, bears,
Okay.
all of that. What's your favorite animal?
I like foxes.
Nope, that's not on here.
Oh, well, then fuck you. You're useless to me.
It's called
Oh my God.
Follow, FAHLO. And they're like $16 for one of the bracelets, and
I've
you get
never
a
heard
little
that. That's
QR code and it
cool.
tracks your little friend. So I have seen though, like on TikTok, like
Yeah.
somebody will be following their animal and they're like, my animal has not been updated
Oh
in
no.
a while.
See, that
So,
would make me so sad.
I know. Yeah.
That's like, I'm sure like that's how people feel when they like have indoor outdoor cats and they have a tracker on them and then like
Then
it
they're
just goes
gone.
dark.
I know.
Like
Yeah.
what the fuck? That would give me so much anxiety. I would rather just not know.
Yeah. He doesn't have a name. He's like M2333 or something like
You gonna
that.
name him?
What should we name him? We'll put a poll. He doesn't have a name yet.
Huh. Wait, what kind of animal is it?
He's a red wolf.
Just name him Wolfie. I don't know. Yeah, what do you guys want to name him? Tell us in the comments below.
Yep. All right.
That's so cool that like you just had this realization, like you're not scared of Hekate anymore.
Yeah.
Right? And now, look, Tom gave you stuff to make your arch, and
He
now
did. He cleared that out. What?
and then he also gave you your wolf
Is she
bracelet.
working through? Is she working to get to me through Tom?
She's
He's the
possessed Tom.
He is the channel.
Listen, if Tom brings you over a slice of cheesecake,
Oh my God!
Then you
Kleiny
know.
makes the best, bombest
then you fucking
cheesecake.
know.
Oh,
Then you know it's real.
he would be for it. Yeah.
Okay, keep us all posted if you get
Okay, I
some
will.
cheesecake from Tom. That's amazing. If he does bring you cheesecake, you got to bring it out to your little maypole and put your offering there.
That is my new. I'm gonna put my altar out there. That
I
just
love
is
that.
like crying to be a sacred space for sure.
I love this for you.
Thanks,
Remember like a week ago? I remember maybe a couple episodes ago. I was telling you how I sent Avi that autumn equinox vortex that people were making in the woods with the
Yes.
sticks,
Yes.
and then I sent that to you.
Yes.
I'm glad you're doing something like that. That's awesome.
I've been dying to, and now I have my little chainsaw.
Your chainsaw. You showed me that. I was like, oh my God.
Oh no.
You can't trust me with fucking power. Avi says you can't trust me with power tools.
Well,
Me, not him.
it depends
Me.
on who's teaching you to use them. I think you'd be.
Well, I don't think it matters. I'm an idiot. I would
I don't
slice
think
my own
so.
fucking hand off. All right. All right. So where are we at here? So some additional thoughts. So if Hekate can infuse the life of a heretic with her elegant gravitas, then again, this author, I think this is the same author still, right?
Yeah.
Then I am optimistic about the influence that she can have on anyone. She doesn't require exclusivity like an Abrahamic god. She's too badass for any sort of emotion resembling jealousy or possessiveness. Thank you. I like that because, again, we're all so afraid of this Abrahamic god that we, Catholics and Christians are raised
Yeah.
to be God-fearing, basically,
Yeah.
that, like, you don't even want to, I don't know.
Ask a favor or ask for
Right.
attention or help or condolence or anything.
Or be
Yeah.
afraid to pray to the Virgin Mary instead. Maybe his
Yeah.
ego is like, like, what the fuck? Why are you praying to
yeah,
her? Why are you praying to me?
Oh,
So-
man-child.
Right, exactly. So that's very refreshing to hear that Hekate does not require that type of exclusivity. She doesn't require fealty or a bended knee like a Game of Thrones Khaleesi, and there's nothing codependent about her. She's rooting for us to have healthy boundaries, to approach her as a peer instead of a supplicant. And the year 2020 is so cancelable, this author says. American cities choke on the smoke of wildfires, and we mourn the death of strong feminine energied icons like Ruth Bader Ginsburg. And as the world burns out, Hekate may be a balm for those who may now be ready to reach towards the liminal and visceral. And this rings even more true now than ever, even more now than in 2020,
How
right?
much has happened
So
in
much.
5 years? Jesus
Insane.
Christ, we need her so bad.
Insane, right?
She needs to light this place up.
Well, I mean, look at all the wildfires that LA had last winter, and
Yeah.
it's just like the empire part feels like it is falling, but it's probably gonna take a bit. You know what I mean?
She's all for the slow con.
The
Or
slow
the
burn.
long con. The slow burn.
Slow burn, right. And then it's just and then a big explosion at the end.
Yeah.
Just give her cheesecake. She wants the cheesecake.
We've touched here and there through this episode about Hekate and how she shows up in pop culture. There are a few other ones we haven't mentioned. We're going to go over some we have mentioned. So she is not often actually in TV shows and movies. The one we talked about, Lore Olympus, she is. But she is referenced a fair bit, often in ways we might not like. So firstly, we have Macbeth again, and I'm sure everyone knows this one. The play begins with the 3 stereotypical hag witches around the cauldron chanting, including that famous line, including our aunts, saying double, double, toil and trouble, fire burn and cauldron bubble. Hekate enters with, "Oh, well done, I commend your pains, and everyone shall share aye the gains. And now about the cauldron sing, live elves and fairies in the ring, enchanting all that you put in." She also appears later on in the play to tell off the witches and speak of Macbeth's downfall. This author says, "We don't really see a lot of her in the play, but we see enough of her and the witches to see how she comes to be viewed as evil, chaotic, and as a hag. It also calls on the triple goddess idea with there being 3 witches. Despite her representation in this play contributing to misconceptions about Hekate, it seems to be one that people don't mind so much. There is something rather intriguing about her and the witches in Macbeth."
I have another kind of connection, and this one's kind of brand spanking new because, as you know, Taylor Swift just dropped her brand new album, Life of a Showgirl, and a lot of that album, she says, is based on the works of Shakespeare. Her title track, or her first single off of that album, is the what is it? The Fate of Ophelia.
Cool.
And in that song, she says, "I pledge allegiance to the," what did she say? "The land, the sea, the sky." And before we just we were just saying how we just said something before about the land and the sea and the sky.
That is what she ruled. Yeah, exactly.
Right. So even though Ophelia, that's Hamlet, right? I think that's Hamlet, not Macbeth. But interesting that I wonder if she's referencing Hekate there from Hamlet, even, or from Macbeth, even though Ophelia's from Hamlet.
I could see that. That's a good find.
So
Swiftie.
interesting. I wonder if Taylor's invoking Hekate over there.
I feel like she is doing some dark shit.
Oh, 100%. Have you seen the Eras Tour? Her song Willow is so fucking witchy.
I don't follow her. I'm sorry.
No, I know. I'm gonna send you that music video though. Please watch that music video. It's so freaking witchy.
Okay.
It reminds me of like the dance that those in the beginning of Outlander, when Claire's kind of like spying on the women at the rocks and they're like dancing with like the glowing balls and stuff.
Yeah.
That music video is like just like that.
Pretty.
It's so pretty. It's so pretty. I know you don't follow her, but I think you can appreciate that music video for its witchiness and
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Anyway,
we have American Horror Story in Coven. Hekate is called on as Mother of Angels and the Cosmic World Soul in a ritual by character Fiona to bankrupt the Delphi Trust. She also pops up in Buffy the Vampire Slayer. In the TV series, Hekate is called on or referenced in 3 different episodes, and apparently also in the Xbox game. She is invoked by the witches Amy and Willow as the Queen and Protectress of Witches. Twice she is called, I like how they're capitalizing she. You know how in like Catholic world you have to capitalize God and he.
that's right.
That's what this author is doing. Twice she is called on in a spell to turn people into rats, and once to turn a man into a woman. In the Marvel comics, Hekate, much like the whole host of other deities from numerous pantheons, appears in the Marvel universe. As a goddess who apparently was scorned by Hades in favor of Persephone, she gave magic to humans and was punished for it by Zeus, who wiped her memory. She shows up in Charmed as an upper-level demon.
Fuck it all.
Of the underworld, the Charmed sisters encounter Hekate, who comes to Earth every 2 centuries to force a man to marry her. Apparently, after being married, she can then have his child, and the kid will be pure demon, but look completely human. She's quite nasty looking as a demon, but interestingly, she appears as a blonde woman with blue eyes in her human form. Quite the difference from her usual, like, dark or silver hair, dark robe Hekate. I think people are used to seeing. But it doesn't really make up for the whole evil demon thing. Then we have her in Lore Olympus. I can't say enough about this comic because it's so beautifully watercolored style. It's so cool. Read it on your phone if you can, but they do have big printed book versions. So in this online comic, Hekate is Hades' best friend and works as his right-hand girl, as his chief assistant in the underworld core. After he made his sacrifice to Erebos, he woke up to see Hekate by his side and entertaining Kronos while Hades rested. He soon recognized who she was, and she would ask him how it felt to be king. When talking about his sacrifice and wondering what was taken from him, Hekate looks to him with sadness, seemingly knowing what was taken. Hekate is smart and sassy, quick to make any colleague who steps out of line feel small with a short retort. She can be quite blunt and is not afraid to tell it like it is. As a worker, she is quick and efficient, keeping things running perfectly in the underworld as Hades' right-hand woman. Hekate has love for chaos that she originally relished in before Hades became ruler of the underworld, and appears to thrill at the prospect of punishment and retribution. She is just boss babe to a T, and this is how I feel she would just be in like my everyday, like, I don't have time for your bullshit, so get to the point.
The fact that you point out that she has a love for chaos kind of like makes me think of like when Sally and Jillian, you know, mighty Hektate make it right. They invoke Hekate, whoever they think they're invoking. And then she gives them the chaos that they're asking for.
Yeah.
Right? From that point on, the whole entire rest of the movie is fucking chaotic,
That's what I'm kind of scared of.
Right?
Yeah.
Right. So
Yeah.
But again, they never revered her. They never made offerings. They never gave anything in return. They only asked for something.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah.
So that could be the difference there.
Yeah. In this world, she is seen as wise and independent Titan goddess who isn't intimidated by Hades. Her character is criticized for becoming a, quote, hypocritical enabler, offering guidance that supports Hades' questionable actions in relationships. She has a powerful position with the Pantheon, seen as an influential figure who can manipulate circumstances to suit her own agenda. So I'm for it, you know, harm none. Yeah. She shows up in the TV show Atlantis. This person says, I haven't watched this yet, but apparently Hekate is referenced in one episode. Jason finds a shrine to her, all skulls and blood and evil looking, and he steals some cooking meat from it. He is then punished by Hekate, who turns him into a werewolf or something. She is in the Percy Jackson series of books. Hekate is mentioned several times and makes an appearance in a few of them as well, as an adversary of Percy Jackson, of course. This person hasn't read the books, but it's on their list. Nevertheless, from what they can see on Wikipedia and what others say, the representation of her is actually quite well done. None of all the dark, evil, hag goddess stuff, but she is still listed as being one of the goddesses of many things history says she is. The Percy Jackson storyline is, of course, based in modern times. Therefore, what happens in them is not so much based in history, but on what might happen today, kind of. No matter, the history of her in the books is accurate, and we don't see that often in popular culture. Pagans and Hekatians are divided as to whether they like the portrayal of her or not in this one. She also shows up in Penny Dreadful, which is the TV show. She's not like an actual portrayal of Hekate, but a character is named Hekate.
I remember that.
She's in an animated short called Hekate, Queen of the Witches, another short film just called Hekate. She shows up in Hellboy comics and the animated series, the Hercules animated series, and Capricia, which is a TV series.
So now going back to Dua Lipa's Levitating, and why it's a witchy visual homage to Hekate. And this was written by Chaoyan Ku. This is on popdust.com. So this says, Dua Lipa performs during the Love Stream Festival in Bratislava, Slovakia, in 2022. And her latest song, Levitating, officially features Missy Elliott and Madonna, but the real star of the video is an ancient goddess whose dark mythology is enjoying a 21st century renaissance. The internet is bearing witness to a society governed by toxic, traditionally male structures of power that pervert, devalue, and assault feminine energy and feminine bodies. And yet, rising from the scorched Earth like an obsidian serpent is Hekate, one of the most feared and respected spiritual entities of ancient Western and Middle Eastern mythology. There's been a dramatic increase in the interest in Hekate, not only in the witch world, but also in popular culture, says Cindy Brannan, writer of Keeping Her Keys. The first time I led a large ritual of Hekate at a pagan festival over a decade ago, most of the participants either had never heard of her or had a very limited understanding. So how is Hekate symbolized in Dua Lipa's music video? So instead of literal personification, Hekate actually shows up in the video through a sigil, a magical symbol called the strophalos, or Hecate's wheel. The strophalos first appears at 8 seconds on a grainy TV, but appears consistently throughout the video on everything from a spinning record, graffiti, and even on little candy that is suggestively eaten. So, while the original serpentine design is from a tomb outside the Mycenaean temple of Aphrodite, and is thus called the Mycenaean button, the strophalos is the most popular symbol associated with Hekate today. In fact, the traditional strophalos dedicated to Hekate was actually an inks wheel. These tools often resembled a modern whirligig or buzzsaw toys, a wheel that has been threaded with cord and wound up so that the tension causes it to spin rapidly, says Jeff Cullen, a longtime Hekate devotee whose book on modern Hecatean devotion and magical technique, Liber Chthoniya, is still going strong on Kickstarter even after becoming fully funded within 24 hours of the launch. In ancient times, the inks was seen as a powerful way to draw down the gods into physical form, so the Mycenaean button drawn on this spinning wheel has long been used as a way for Hecatean devotees to connect with the goddess. In Dua Lipa's video, the spinning record emblazoned with the inks symbol may be seen as an electronic inks. As a witch recites hymns and prayers to Hekate, they should have the wheel spinning towards them to manifest her in the physical world. This isn't to say that she will show up as a colossal goddess, but perhaps a phantom light, shadow, sound, or animal, continues Jeff. If used while casting witchcraft, the inks can send forth our intentions, call lovers together, or even summon the dead.
There it is.
There it is, Jimmy.
Jimmy.
This is what seems to happen in the Dua Lipa video. The amorous intentions of a young woman are put into motion by swallowing strophalos candy. Lovers come together under the auspices of strophalos on a spinning record, a strophalos being drawn in chalk. Dua Lipa and her lover gaze into a lunar eclipse. Not a dark moon per se, but it is moon related, as is Hekate, after several prior scenes of the strophalos. And while the strophalos is a well-known way for Hecate's devotees to connect with her, it's not the only method. What seems to be the best way to develop a relationship with Hekate is through a sincere desire to stand in one's personal truth, says Cindy Brannan. When the depths of her historical accounts are explored, a similar theme emerges. Hekate favors those who resist the false comforts of conformity. She is the goddess of the misfits, the rebels, and those leading their own personal rebellions. So why is Hekate becoming so popular now? Many young people nowadays identify as marginal, non-mainstream, gender fluid, mixed race, non-binary, multicultural, and sexually atypical, says Jack Grail. Hekate mirrors them perfectly. She was a strange, beautiful, useful, but frightening goddess who existed at the margins of all things. Young people who are searching for a relatable spiritual power relate most easily to her. Often considered the queen bee of witches, Hecate's rise in popularity also mirrors the rise in witchcraft, paganism, and the occult in the mainstream. Witch-adjacent activities such as astrology and tarot have become such a, quote, normal part of American society that even therapists are starting to learn them in order to relate better with their patients, who are often enthusiasts of these witchy arts. Pop culture in relation to magic is an interesting thing. When a spirit or god or practice has a serious impact, it will often show up in popular culture, says Jason Miller. Sometimes this is simply because pop culture is a reflection of people's lives. Sometimes it may be something more, like the spirit itself moving the artists. Hekate has, simply by her nature, lingered in the edges of the mainstream, but with the advent of the internet and social media, she's being exposed to the most wide and diverse audience in the history of humankind. That she's getting shout-outs from popular media that gets millions of views, likes, and shares is an exciting new phenomenon. Like, look at TikTok. Like, she's all over TikTok, right?
All over, yeah.
I remember for a while, I was scrolling and like all I was getting was Hekate videos for
right. Like, is she calling to me or is
right.
my FYP?
Or is it my algorithm? Right. So pop culture has always played a role in how the gods manifest and communicate to their devotees, says Jeff Cullen. Modern depictions such as the chilling adventures of Sabrina and the use of her wheel in Dua Lipa's video for levitating speak to certain witches who may not have been aware of Hekate before by planting the seed, so they begin to research and perhaps then are moved to serve her. Like, I think if seeing that symbol in Dua Lipa's music video,
how many people went home and reverse Google search that image of what she was putting up there?
Exactly.
And then they were like, oh, badass bitch up in here.
Right. Because if I'm being honest, I don't know what that symbol looked like.
I don't either.
Right.
Couldn't tell you.
So I would have watched Dua Lipa's video because I am a Dua Lipa fan. I like her music.
Oh, yeah?
So I could have watched that music video and I had not even known that it was a Hekate symbol,
Wow. Yeah.
Talk about subliminal messaging. Throughout dynamic periods of history, whether during the times of the Chaldeans, the Greeks, or Shakespearean England, Hekate has always surged in mainstream culture. As long as humans crave a connection to an ancient energy, an archetype, or a full-on deity that deals with the liminal, the changing, the mutability of life cycles, and the gravitas of finding solid ground during chaotic transitions, Hekate will always be around. We are now at a similar cleavage when the old ways have been destroyed and Hekate is there. Hekate is Rixipile, the earth shatterer. When the old ways crash and burn, she emerges, says Cindy Brannon. It is not so much that Hekate returns, but that we pay attention to her. In dark times, we need the Dark Mother.
Yeah.
And that couldn't be more true, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Right. I think that's why we're all craving that kind of motherly figure right now, because we didn't get it in November.
Yeah.
So, we're just all craving that motherly energy, somebody come help us fix this earth, please.
Yeah. Everything's so divided. Everything is just burning to the ground and mankind destroying each other, destroying the earth. We need somebody to pull us all together in a big group hug and let's just fucking eat cake in the woods and light shit on fire safely.
Yeah. We need that nurturing spirit, right? Yeah. So then lastly, in fashion and symbolism, Hekate's symbols and imagery have made their way into modern fashion and accessory design. Her triple moon symbol and other representations are often used to evoke a sense of mystique and empowerment, and this appropriation of her symbolism highlights the enduring appeal of her character as a symbol of female strength and the mysteries of life. And I love that maiden, mother, and crone. That's all stages of a woman's life, right?
That's right. Yeah. It's really, no matter, I think, what the symbol is, we've talked about the moons, the Oberos, that life, death, life cycle, just as a reminder of this is temporary. It's going to get worse before it gets better, unfortunately.
Right. Yeah.
But, yeah. I don't feel like we scratched the surface with Hekate, but talking with Vincent was great. I thought, that was really cool to just dive right in, because we did our show a little out of order this time, just to kind of dive into what an actual devotee has felt working with her. And it's not that serious. Yeah. It's all right. She's there for you.
And again, just a reminder, she is not an Abrahamic god. So if somebody is gatekeeping or intimidating you into not working with her and you are feeling called to work with her,
right,
don't feel so intimidated and tell that person to go F off and then go eat some cheesecake in the woods at your altar. To Hekate. Right. Yeah. That's it. And then that's it.
And then that's it. That's it for today. That's it for us too.
That's it for today.
If you'd like to help support the show, you can visit us at patreon.com/Magnolia Street Podcast, where you can vote about what we talk about next. You can see our monthly calendars and even get a shout out on the show. You can grab our show notes, our after hours posts, and curated playlists. You're able to join our private communities over on Facebook and Discord for live streams, watch parties, and other chats. You can unlock bonus videos and bloopers, meditations, old vault footage, spells, and ritual content, plus exclusive demos of our original music. But if Patreon's not your thing, you can still support us for free by rating our show on Spotify or Apple Podcast and leave us a review. Share us on Instagram and check out our merch through the link in our bio. But again, that's patreon.com/Magnolia Street Podcast.
Anything else?
Check out our Bandcamp, where our music lives. If you'd like to support us that way, you can download our album over there or listen to it on Spotify. But make sure you leave us a review, please and thanks.
All right, guys. I need to go drink some tea.
I hope you feel better.
Me too.
I wanted to ask you if you saw Nicole Kidman's comeback look.
No, she already has a comeback look?
She looks great.
Yo.
Like her hair's a little more cherry blonde. Look it up. She's got fringe. She took notes. Ain't
our
no
girl-
man gonna hold her down.
Our girl wasted no time with that bounce back.
I've not seen her look better in a long
Amazing.
time.
I'm happy for her.
Me too. Look that guy.
Maybe we'll talk about this more in the beginning of the next episode.
Okay.
But did you see that article that came out about how that film that she shot, was it called Baby Girl or something? How those sex scenes were so intense that she was like, I don't even want a man to touch me after this.
Wow.
Yeah.
What?
So yeah, I'll have to send you the article.
Yeah, please do. We'll discuss it next time.
Yeah, maybe we'll deep dive into that next time.
All right.
All
man.
right, that's it. I gotta go drink some tea and eat
I'm
some
Christina.
soup. I'm Justina. We'll see you next time.
At the house on Magnolia Street, would you go down to Magnolia Street where the wisteria wild? At the house of magic and mystery, so would you go down to Magnolia Street?
Can you hear me mouth breathing? Mighty Hektate, make me not sick anymore.
Need you to sing Swing Low, Sweet Chariot.
Swing low, swing chariot. Yo, I tell you, I got that bass note right now.
Me too.